There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock. Hey you guys, episode 172. Going back to the true crime on this one. And what I've started doing is, because we've had so many different requests and recommendations for different serial killers, different murder cases, stuff like that. So on the list that I have of upcoming episodes and ideas for shows and stuff, I've started arranging all of them in sort of loose themes, you know what I mean? Either by country or by city or by similarity of the crimes or whatever. So I decided on this one since I had had so many requests for different Canadian serial killers, and we have done a couple of other shows about some Canadian crimes, we did one about all the crimes in Toronto and stuff like that. So I thought I would just throw 4 different cases together on this one and just call it a Canadian crime extravaganza, I guess. A couple of serial killers and then a couple of other just kind of horrific crimes that are not necessarily constitute serial killers, but we'll get into that a bit. So we're going to be talking about David Russell Williams. We're going to be talking about Luka Magnotta, Bruce McArthur, probably one of the longest running serial killers who might have actually been responsible for way more than they suspect. And I also want to talk about, at the end, I want to talk about the murder of Tim McLean, because someone requested that a while back, and I remember that shit happening because that was fucking horrifying. That was the one on the Greyhound bus, where somebody just kind of murdered a guy that was sleeping and cut his head off and started eating him and stuff. So,
on a Greyhound?
Yeah.
While I was driving?
No, I think it was parked. I don't know. No, maybe it was driving, actually.
Damn.
I'm not really sure. Yeah. But it's it was a case that I remembered. It was from several years ago, but it's kind of hard to forget. So,
yeah.
So somebody requested it a while back, so I'm finally getting around to doing that. So that'll be what we're looking into on this episode. But before that, like we usually do, let's do a couple of shout outs. Got a bunch of people to shout out this week. We got 2 new patrons this week.
And we're coming in.
Matt and Heather. So hi, you guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for welcome aboard.
And I would also like to give a shout out to Gwendolyn for a PayPal donation. So thank you very much for that. Now, look at this shit, you guys. I just got this in the mail today. We're recording this on a Saturday.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
You remember on our show I guess it was on the Thanksgiving show where we were talking about the grocery store Piggly Wiggly? Okay, well, one of our listeners, Eric, who lives in Milwaukee, sent us this amazing, awesome Piggly Wiggly
shopping bag.
Yeah. And look, the best part is that their website, y'all, is shopthepig.com.
So yeah, Piggly Wiggly is around.
Shop the Pig. That doesn't sound like a grocery store website to me, really. But yes, thank you very much for that. I laughed my ass off when I opened that package, and we just got it literally a couple of minutes before we started recording this. So, other than that, I think probably the only my jacket's falling down behind me. The only other things that I have to shout out are just the regular shit I usually shout out. Go check out my audiobook, The Associated Villainies, on my fiction. I'm still working on Hopeful Monsters. It's just taking longer than usual, as it normally does. Also, Faceless Villain 3. Whoever's leaving reviews and stuff like that, thank you very much. That really does help a lot. If you like the books, leave a review.
Yeah.
It really does help when it...
More reviews you have, the better they sell.
Yeah, because, like I said, it's the same kind of thing. I don't really like to buy something sight unseen if I don't...
Right.
But not that I listen to other people's opinions all that much, but, All right, so let's start talking about some of these motherfuckers. I was actually going to do another Canadian crime on this one, Evelyn Dick. Somebody asked me to do her. She's not a serial killer. She just allegedly killed her husband and cut him up. And probably also killed her kid. But I think I will save her for maybe a female killer show. Because, you know what I mean? So I'll probably do that. Because I already had 4, and I was I don't want this show to be 3 hours long, you know what I mean? Because I got shit I gotta do. So I decided to just go with these 4, because these are kind of big, sort of famous cases. So the first guy we're going to talk about is David Russell Williams. Now, this was like a huge deal because this guy was kind of on the surface. He seemed like he was like a really high ranking like military officer. He was a colonel. He was a pilot, and he was like a VIP pilot. He had like flown the fucking Queen of England and the Prime Minister and all this other kind of shit. And as it turns out, he was also a rapist and a murderer. So, that's nice when you find out that kind of shit. He actually was just arrested in 2010. So these are fairly recent cases, most of these. So Colonel Russell Williams, I guess he usually drops the first name because I've seen David Russell Williams and also just Russell Williams. So I guess he just went by his middle names or whatever. He was 46 years old in 2009, and he actually became the commanding officer of 8 Wing CFB Trenton, so he was like the head of like this fucking air base or whatever it was. Yeah. So he was like the boss, you know what I mean? He was actually originally from the UK, but he had moved to Canada with his family when he was a kid. So he had like a really good education. He went to like University of Toronto, all this other kind of shit. Now he joined actually the Canadian military forces in 1987 and just kept like, going up in rank. And as I said, he had flown around like very important people and shit like that. He had all kind of medals. He had all kinds of like, he did a tour in the Middle East, and he had like a whole bunch. Yeah. All right. And like I said, he was like kind of like an elite. He ran like the whole fucking base and everything like that. He also had a wife. Her name was Mary Elizabeth Harriman. They'd been married for 13 years, and they had a house in a suburb of Ottawa, and then later moved to another one like in the capital. Now, like I said, on the surface, it would seem that he was just like this really normal dude, you know what I mean? He was like really educated. He was like high up in the military. Like no one suspected a thing, evidently. However, one thing that he would do, I guess him and his wife owned this cottage in this little village called Tweed, Ontario, which was 33 miles from where they normally lived, or where the base was where he worked. He decided, I guess, that he was just going to start breaking into people's houses like around this cottage, right? And I don't know how long he'd been doing this because, he only admitted to so many, and, they ended up catching him later on, but I'm thinking he did like a lot of these, and then it like steadily got worse.
So he's an Air Force colonel and a pilot, and successful, but he's gonna break into people's cottages?
Yeah.
That's weird. That's unusual.
Yeah. So this is the kind of shit. This was almost kind of like it's like a BTK situation, but BTK was like not all that successful, and I think he kind of wished that he would. Whereas this guy was like very high ranking, like I said, and he had a wife. They didn't have any kids or anything, but it's like, you know what I mean? He seemed like a totally normal dude. So the first crime of his that they know about happened on the night of September 8th. Now he broke into a neighbor's cottage. Like, I guess this was like their vacation cottage or something like that. This wasn't their main house, but This was like, a place that they went for vacation. So the family was not there, but he broke in and took a bunch of like, I guess they had a young daughter, and he would like take all her underwear like out of the drawer and like put it on, like I said, like BTK, and take pictures of himself like in pornographic poses. He also stole some of the underwear.
Damn.
And like kept it, right?
Imagine if this dude's your fucking commanding officer and shit. That's fucking hilarious.
Well, that's what kills me. It's like, can you imagine like finding out about this? Like, I mean, it's bad enough like his wife finding out about it, but there's just like all the people that he was like the commander over and stuff like that. Yeah. Holy crap! Can you? I just can't even imagine. And he is like totally. He looks totally like. He is right from military guys central casting. You know what I mean? Like if you saw a movie in the 80s, like Top Gun or some shit like that. Yeah, he looks like that. And he looks exactly like you would expect. Like he's got like that big square jaw and like that face like that. And you know what I mean? And it's like he looks just like that. And to imagine him, and there's pictures on the internet too, of him like in various lingerie. And like pictures of himself and stuff. But seriously, it gets worse. So this is like how it started out. Apparently, just in his mid-40s, I guess, he decided that he was going to go around and start breaking into people's houses. At first, when no one was home, stealing underwear, taking pictures of himself in the house with the underwear.
No, I don't believe it.
You don't believe it?
No,
I've seen the pictures.
I don't believe. No, I'm saying I don't believe it just started in his 40s.
I don't think so either. I suspect
he was like that.
I suspect that there was a lot of this kind of shit going a long time.
Goes back to when he was like 10 or 11. How much on bet?
Yeah. So, so there was a bunch of these types of crimes. He started breaking into other houses, like I said at first, when no one was home. And then in May 2008, there was another rash of this type of crimes, like near his other house, like not his vacation cottage, but the house where he lived with his wife. Now, what he would do, like I said, at first no one was home. He would just break in and like take pictures and take underwear and stuff like that. So some of the early shit was not reported because no one realized that anyone had broken in. Like, they didn't notice anything was missing. Because it's like, if somebody just took a pair of panties or something like that, you would just think, oh, I lost them in the laundry or something like that. You wouldn't think that some weirdo had broken in and, like, taken your panties. You know what I mean?
Just that.
I mean, I would think that, but most people wouldn't think that. Because, I know how this shit goes. So, yeah, he would either come in through an unlocked door, he would cut a screen open, he would force a window open, or would pick a lock. He would spread the panties and shit like out on the beds, and he would like take some of the underwears. Now apparently he had 82 of these. That's how many he admitted, that he had broken into 82 houses and done this kind of shit.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, when the fuck did he have time to do this kind of stuff? I don't know.
And they were all in that area?
They were, like around his vacation house and around his
that's like all the houses around his vacation house. That's like all of them, probably.
And like I said, I guess the only reason he got away with it for so long was because a lot of people didn't notice, like they didn't report it.
And they weren't there because it was, he was going on the off season?
I suppose so. Or he would just like watch them and like wait till they were out. Because I'm assuming these were all like neighbors or people in the same neighborhoods where he lived.
That's weird. And he wasn't really stealing anything big, just panties and
Just panties and stuff. That's why sometimes it wasn't reported. That's why they only knew later on, like when they caught him and like they found all his photos and video and shit like that. You know what I mean? Because some people didn't notice. Oh. And like if somebody just cut a screen open and crawled, you wouldn't necessarily notice that if it was like in an out of the way place. Now he later admitted that he had stolen over 1,400 pieces of lingerie from people's houses. Keeping all this? In bags and stuff. They found it. They found it later. Yeah. Damn. So, like I said, initially all of these were very minor and they didn't get reported. But however, there were a few houses that in the suburb where he lived. I think that he did like 25 break-ins in that area. Now, 15 of those people did report it because they did notice, right? Yeah. So they staked out, like the undercover officers, like staked out the whole neighborhood, but they didn't see anything unusual. So at this stage, they consult a criminal profile with the Ontario Provincial Police. And he said, and he turned out to be right about this, I guess that's why he's a criminal profiler, is whoever did this, if he doesn't get caught soon, it's going to escalate. Like he could tell, like from the way that the break-ins were done, he said, this guy's going to get bolder and bolder, and eventually it's going to get bad. So you should probably kind of pull out all the stops and try to find this dude. Because, yeah, it doesn't seem like a big deal now. Ooh, somebody stole my panties. But it's like, this looks like something that's going to get worse. And like I said, he was right about that. Because in some of the later crimes, he started doing shit like he would leave a message on the computer. Like he would type something in there. Like in one house, he was in the room of a 12-year-old girl, and he left a message on the computer that said, merci, like, thank you. And he stole her panties. So he was a little bit of a pedophile, too. Yeah. And also, in another house, they found, like, a photo of a woman, and there was semen on it.
Damn.
So the profiler was like, yeah, this dude is, like, gearing up for rape. So let's kind of like try to find this dude.
I got a feeling that's been going on though. He was started all that shit. He probably stealing his mom's or his fucking sister's
I kind of wonder about that too.
And then like some of the peeping Tom on the neighbors, and then maybe he goes off to service eventually, or goes off to school, and it kind of he can't do it there for a while. But then when he got into the military and got up to a certain level of power, he went back to his old ways. It was something like that.
Yeah, because this is something, I mean, like I said,
It was something where had he not gone into the military, he would have started it a lot earlier.
Yeah.
It was something like that because he was doing other things in his professional career.
Yeah, I mean, like, nothing's impossible, but it's very, very unusual for a serial offender like this to just start doing this kind of crap in their mid-40s. That's very, very strange.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
And, and we're going to get into it a little bit more when we talk about Bruce McArthur, too, because by the time they caught that motherfucker, he was, like, in his 60s. And he did some of the murders when he was 60s, but they suspect, although they can't prove it, that he might have done some shit back in the 70s when he was in his 20s, and I kind of believe that because...
You got to look at this stuff kind of like, this is a sexual orientation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have your first sexual experience at 40. Not unless there's something wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? That shit's going down much earlier than that. It's just, what they're describing here is his latest spree before he got caught.
Yeah.
I bet you there were other sprees that were different than this that went on for a long time and never did get caught.
That's kind of what I suspect
probably
also.
Stuff like Peeping Tom.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Because like I said, it would have had to have been something where it was probably largely not reported or was not taken seriously. Like you said, Peeping Tom kind of shit. Or like the shit he was doing at the beginning, just breaking into people's houses and taking their underwear.
Sneaking around, putting cameras up people's skirts in the store, upskirting people.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
That type of shit.
Right.
Shit where you wouldn't necessarily notice it. Or like I said, even if somebody reported it, they wouldn't really take it all that seriously.
Yeah, it was something like that.
But see, that's why they should take this shit seriously. Because a lot of times that shit escalates.
He'd probably go off on a thing where he'd do that for 3 or 4 years, then he'd change his MO and do something else because he'd get bored.
Yeah.
This is just one. This is the latest one that he got caught on.
Yeah.
That this led up to something. That's what I think happened.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. So just as the criminal profiler had predicted, 2 women in the suburb of Tweed were attacked in September of 2009. The first victim, they did not release her name. She did not want to release, so she just goes by Jane Doe. That was on September 17th. And a woman named Lori Massacott on the 30th. Now, both of these women were asleep in their apartments, and Williams broke in, tied them up, blindfolded them, sexually assaulted them, and forced them to pose naked for pictures. So both of these victims, and like I said, these attacks happened only like a couple weeks apart. Obviously, both these women reported this shit to the police, but the police did not warn the public about it until after the second one. You know what I mean?
Hey, you must have one of those Polaroid cameras that develops the film on its own, one of those old ones. Because how could you take that anywhere to have it developed?
Well, this is in the 2000s, so digital.
It might have been a digital camera.
Yeah, because he had when they caught him, they had he had like a shit ton of photos in his head. Yeah, these are digital photos.
I was thinking this was still back in the 90s.
Yeah. So the police, like I said, they kind of warned the public about it. They at first called this guy the Tweed Creeper, and started going door to door, like looking for information about him. Unfortunately, they could not find anything. Now, only a few months later, on November 23rd, 2009, there was a town called Brighton, which is just west of Trenton, where his airbase was. Williams broke into the house of a woman named Corporal Marie France Cameau. Now, she was actually under his command at the base.
Imagine that.
So, yeah, he broke into her house and, started, struggling with her. She, fought back against him. He hit her on the head with a flashlight and knocked her out. He repeatedly raped her over the next 2 hours. When she started fighting back, he started beating the shit out of her.
She didn't recognize him?
I don't know because she died.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure she did.
I wonder if he tracked her down, if he knew who she was. Like he saw her on base.
I would assume that he knew who she was, yeah.
Saw her on base and says, I'm going to get that one.
Yeah.
Probably.
I'm assuming. I don't know if he was wearing a mask or anything, but yeah. So yeah, he actually recorded himself doing all this on video and photographs. Still photographs. Yeah. Then he covered her face with duct tape and asphyxiated her.
Damn.
Then he wrapped her body up in a comforter and left her in the bedroom and took off.
Damn. He's recording it with his video camera. Or his phone or whatever.
Yeah. So they didn't find her until the following day, like when people noticed she was missing or whatever. So they search her house and everything like that. And the creepy thing is that after they had discovered her dead, the Colonel Williams, who was her commanding officer, he sent like condolences to her dad.
Damn. Yeah.
Can you imagine? Like, what a fucking cold-hearted motherfucker. God damn it. What the fuck is the matter with you?
He's evil.
Yeah. Now, the next victim was named Jessica Lloyd. Now, he broke into her house near Belleville, Ontario, very early on the morning of January 29th. She was sleeping. He raped her, made her pose naked for photographs. Then he dragged her out to his, he had a silver 2001 Nissan Pathfinder that was like parked in a field near her house. So he dragged her out there, threw her in the car, drove her to his cottage, continued to rape her for several more hours, then cracked her skull open with a flashlight and strangled her with rope.
Okay, now the first one, what date was this? What year?
2009. November 2009.
Damn.
And this was January.
And then the second one
2010. This is January 2010.
So a year.
No, a few months.
A few months. What did you say it was?
November,
and then January?
End of November 2009, and then the next one was January. So it was only like 2 months later.
All right, but supposedly that first one was his first one. That's what he's claiming.
That's the first murder.
First murder.
Not the first.
I don't believe it.
Not the first rape. See, I don't believe that either. I don't believe it. Yeah. So
I don't believe that was the first one.
No, I don't think so. Because, like I said, this does not start.
He's 40-something years old. He does the first one, and then a couple months later does murder number 2. So he cooled off in a 2-month period. There were other guys that would do one, and then it took them a couple years to get the balls to do it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it started to accelerate. So I just don't believe it. This is habitual. This is habitual, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of behavior.
I think it's an on again, off again.
And like thing. I said, this is something that we'll probably get into when I'm talking about Bruce McArthur too, because I think that motherfucker, like I said, allegedly, because I can't prove it and they don't have like evidence or anything like that, but nobody just starts being a serial killer in their fucking 60s.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but
super unlikely.
That is very, very unlikely. So I kind of think that probably this guy and that other guy had done some shit.
They usually start
and didn't get caught.
They usually start in their teens.
Yeah, like I said, I was watching a thing the other day. Michael Arntfield, who wrote the book about Toronto that I use for our Toronto show. He said the peak age for serial killers or for murderers in general, in the United States at least, was 31. Yeah. That was like the most common. You know what I mean? So with all the averages of the age.
But what's the average age for when they start though?
That I don't know. I'm just saying it's probably earlier.
Late teens.
Well, and we've talked about a lot of them on the show. It's like usually you know that they're going to go bad by the time they're in their teens because they don't, even if they don't start murdering people, they start doing other types of criminal behavior.
Setting fires, fucking animals.
Like I said, doing peeping Tom type shit, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, lots of stealing.
Yeah. Breaking and entering, all is just like this guy did. Yeah. So I kind of feel like, and again, just like Bruce McArthur, nobody starts being a serial killer in their 60s. Nobody starts being a serial killer in their fucking mid-40s. Mid to late 40s, this guy was. So, yeah.
Especially not after a successful career. That shit happened first, and then he became a
And then maybe he was even trying to, like, fix himself or cure or something. I don't really know.
I think it was an on-again, off-again thing.
Yeah, maybe it just, like, came over him.
I think he started it young and then quit and then went back to it and then quit and then went back to it. I bet you there were 3 or 4 8 episodes of this.
Yeah, that seems very likely.
With years breaks in between. That's just because there have been some of them that were like that.
Yeah.
And this guy seems like one of those.
Well, like I said, it's kind of like BTK, because he did all those and then
go on a spree and then he'd stop.
And then he'd stop for like several years. Right, that's why it didn't. I mean, the only reason they fucking caught him is because he's like, oh, everybody's forgetting about me. I'm going to start sending fucking letters again like a dumbass.
He was like that.
Yeah.
I think.
So, just like in the first case, all the horrible things that he did to Jessica Lloyd, he also recorded that on video. For a while, he hid her body in his garage or the garage of his cottage. And then a couple days later, he went and dumped her in the woods near Tweed, which was like a suburb. Now, obviously, Jessica Lloyd didn't show up for work and was reported missing because her car was there, but she wasn't home, and her friends and family got worried. So the police pretty quickly figured out that this missing person, which is what she was at the time, was very likely linked to the other sexual assaults that had happened in Tweed, where the women survived, and also the other murder of Miss Camo. So they start this massive search. Ironically, the search included personnel and a search and rescue aircraft from the base where Colonel Williams worked, and he was the one that authorized the use of the personnel and the aircraft.
Yeah, and he's getting off
in the search.
He's getting off on all this power because they're asking him to search for the killer. And he's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He
so
never did find him.
Yeah. This fucking motherfucker. These guys make me so mad. So they have all these cops, they have all these volunteers, but they don't find her for like a week. But they did have a bunch of witnesses that said that they had seen a silver SUV parked in a field near her house on the night she disappeared. So the cops went to the field and they found very distinctive tire tracks. And they knew that the tire tracks were probably from a Nissan Pathfinder or a similar vehicle. Like, they narrowed it way down. So the cops set up like a road, like a checkpoint. And they said they were looking for drunk drivers, but that's not what they were doing. So Colonel Williams actually got stopped at the checkpoint. So the cops start asking him questions about Jessica Lloyd, and then they start looking at his tires. Colonel Williams is like, hey, can you hurry this up? My kid is sick at home. Now, he doesn't have any kids,
right?
But they didn't know that at the time. They found that out later. However, the cops were still suspicious because his tire treads looked very much like the ones that they had just recovered from the field near Jessica Lloyd's house. So they couldn't arrest him just on that, but they did put him under surveillance because they thought it was very suspicious. Later on, when they found out that he didn't have any children and had lied to them about, hey, can you hurry up? I have a sick kid at home. So they decided, well, we're going to ask him to come down here so we can ask him a few questions about something else. You know what I mean? So they actually got him to come down there willingly because he thought they were going to ask him about some other shit, I guess. So once they get Colonel Williams in the interrogation room, the detective is just like, hey, so we heard you were hanging out in that field by Jessica Lloyd's house, and started peppering him with questions about her disappearance. And they also noticed that the boots he had on were the same ones, they matched the footprints that they had found in the field, near where the truck had been seen. There was outside of her house in the snow.
They caught him.
Yeah. So what they did too is while he was in the interrogation room, a search party had been sent out to his house, and his wife was like, what the fuck? And she was super surprised, but I guess she let them in and let them look around because she didn't know what the fuck was going on. So they start searching the house, and then the search party would relay information back to the guy that's interrogating him. It's hey, we found this. Hey, we found that. Ask him about that. You know what I mean? So they had it all hooked up and shit. So the more that they kept asking him and asking him, and finally he just couldn't deny it anymore. So the detective is finally okay, so what'd you do with her? Where is she? Jessica Lloyd, because they hadn't found her yet at this time. And finally Colonel Williams fesses up and he says, well, give me a map.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you one thing.
Or where the body was. Show them where the body was.
You can the Canadian fucking military is embarrassed as hell, I'll tell you that, having this shit bag as the fucking base commander. But at least they had some decent law enforcement.
Yeah.
You can tell the difference between modern law enforcement techniques and how efficient it is, and say what we had back in the 70s and the 80s, how fucked up they were.
Yeah,
they just didn't.
And everything was written on paper, and nobody communicated with each other, and it's just we had everything's written on index cards in a box, and I don't know where the fuck.
Yeah, and they really didn't know how to profile them, and you know what I mean. They wouldn't. they would put certain people above suspicion when you can't put anybody above suspicion, you know.
Yeah, that's one thing I can say about the law enforcement. They seemed pretty fucking on the ball.
They got on it.
I mean,
quick.
They linked the sexual assaults. They linked them to the murders pretty much right away. They set up the thing. They got the tire tracks, so they caught him like pretty quickly.
Had this happened in, say, the U.S. back in the 70s or even Canada back in the 70s, he would have gotten away with it for a lot.
Well, a lot of people did.
A lot longer.
Like I said, it's like, they didn't have, like now, it's like, shit's immediate and everybody's like, on the internet and they can track your fucking cell phone and everything like that.
Some people are going to say, oh, yeah, that those murders were his first ones because he raped, three girls total before he started on it, before he killed the third victim. But that's not necessarily true either. There's serial killers that have let victims go before. Could have been he was trying to get back into it and he just kind of warmed up to it after a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I don't think those are his first.
I don't think so either.
Victims.
I suspect there's some other shit
I think he did some. I think maybe he did some when he was younger.
Yeah.
And he missed it.
Yeah, and then like after a while he's like,
after a while he went back
to
it. Yeah, went back to it.
So they search his house and his cottage and everything like that. They did like a massive search of all his stuff. They found his camera. They found a duffel bag containing like a skull cap, which maybe he like pulled that over his face partially. He had a lock picking manual. He had a whole bunch of boxes and pillowcases that were stuffed with stolen underwear and lingerie. In the ceiling of the basement of the house in Ottawa, they found 2 computer hard drives, which had like kind of encrypted files, but they were able to like uncrypt them. They found he had kept like meticulous records of all his activities as a sexual predator, like over 2 years. He had video clips, 3,000 pictures, including several of the women that he murdered, the women that he raped, shit like that. He also kept like a detailed log of all the break-ins that he had done and like the underwear that he had stolen. It was like an inventory of all the shit. So he was like fucking, he's just like BTK. He's like one of those really weird, like super anal retentive. It's like, and I stole like, 36B bra.
Yeah.
Lace. Red. What the fuck? It's like, that is so crazy.
Yeah.
So obviously.
He had more important things to do.
I guess not. Holy shit. So yeah, they found all this fucking shit and they're like, well, guess he's guilty. Holy crap. It's like, gee, thanks, man, for doing all our work for us. That was nice of you. So yeah, so they arrest him and obviously everyone is shocked. His wife is shocked. The fucking military is shocked because no one suspected anything like about this dude. So he gets taken to court in Belleville on February 8th. And this was a 2010, I guess. Yeah. He gets charged with murder, sexual assault, forcible confinement, because he had tied, many of the women up. He was also charged with many, many counts of breaking and entering. Now, he spent 8 months in a place called the Quint Detention Center, and kind of made court appearances. I guess they did like Skype or whatever. He actually pleaded guilty to all the charges, so they never did put him on trial. However, over Easter weekend, April 2010, he tried to commit suicide by cramming a cardboard toilet paper tube down his throat. Unfortunately, they rescued him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they put him under suicide watch. And as I said, since he had pled guilty, at least, they actually sentenced him to 2 life sentences.
That's funny.
With no possibility of parole for 25 years. Also, he had to register as a sex offender. They destroyed all of his the underwear and shit he had stolen, and they destroyed his Nissan Pathfinder.
Why are they worried about registering him as a sex offender? He didn't get life?
He did, yeah.
What are they worried about that for? Were they going to release him on? But
I think they do. It almost seems like they do it like for a shame thing. So like now, if anybody like searches his name, not only will murderer come up, it's like, oh, you're also on the sexual offender registry.
Did you hear about that stabbing on the London Bridge that just happened like 2 days ago? Yeah, it had a guy yelling, Aloha Snack Bar, and he like stabbed like 4 people, and one of the guys that jumped on him and pacified him turned out to be a dude that slit his girlfriend's throat and killed her. He was serving a life sentence. He was on day release.
Huh.
London is so fucked up that they're releasing the murderers to stop the damn fucking knife terrorists.
Huh.
Imagine that shit.
That's pretty crazy.
That's some weird shit.
Yeah.
They were calling him a hero.
and then they found out. They're like,
wait a minute, hold on. He's serving a life sentence. They
never mind. There are no heroes.
Yeah,
in this
let
situation.
him out for a life sentence for fucking slitting his girlfriend's throat. Although, hey, he did save some people.
True,
but
like I said, no one's all bad or all good.
I don't think they're going to give him.
Life is complicated.
I don't think they're going to give him early release for that, though.
No, I doubt it. Because
But I don't think the British public knew that murderers with life sentences were walking around on day release. Yeah, that's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, go ahead, come on back before dark. Man, that would never happen here. That would never happen here.
Yeah. So on the first day of his guilty plea, like when he was in court or whatever, he actually did admit to like details from a bunch of other sexual assaults that they didn't know about. He admitted to one where he had broken into a house. There was like a woman in there who had just had a baby, and the baby was asleep, and he had like raped her, I guess, and beat her over the head or whatever. So they hadn't found out about that one. So now they know about that. Also found out, like I said earlier, that he had a bit of a pedophile thing going on. That some of the underwear that he had stolen was from girls as young as 9 years old.
He didn't discriminate.
I guess not.
No, just if it was female, he wanted that underwear.
Yeah. So he actually ended up admitting, not only to the rapes and murders, but also to 82 home invasions and attempted break-ins between September 2007 and November of 2009. So like I said, he had taken thousands of pictures. He had like an inventory of all the shit he stole. It's like there were pictures of him laying on the beds of like his victims and like jerking off, like wearing their bras and underwear and shit like that. Like I said, there's pictures of him all over the internet, like in the lingerie. So
weird, man. That's really close to him and to BTK.
That's what. Yeah, it made me think of that. It seems like the same type of dude.
And that's making me think that these were not his first murders.
No, I don't think so
BTK's first murder was that little girl and that family.
Yeah.
Remember her?
Yep.
And then he went for decades before he killed again.
It was a while, yeah.
And this dude's that same way.
Yeah.
It was shit like that. He did something a long time ago, but he's not going to fess up to that because he probably has some kind of hopes where he'll get out.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, he's living in fantasy land.
He got 2 life sentences. They said, oh, well, maybe he'd be eligible for parole in 25 years, but I'm sure he will not get it. And he will be like in his 70s by then anyway.
And then he may also like have some appeals too.
Yeah.
He might be appealing for lighter sentencing and shit like that. So he's not gonna confess.
Yeah.
To prior murders.
Yeah, that's because you know what I mean.
It'll fuck up what he's got right now. I guarantee you.
Yeah. What he's got right now.
Yeah, well, he thinks he can. He
probably
he's one of these dudes. Well, it's only 25 years.
I can do that.
I've got 6 years served already. Actually, 10 years. I got 10 years served already. It's only 15 years.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
We're talking like BTK.
Yeah, hold on. Where's Dennis?
Yeah, where's Dennis? What does Dennis have to say about this?
Yeah, they're feeding me good. I could do another 15 years.
No biggie.
Yeah.
Look at his little. It's like you can just see his little
Dennis
head.
right
There you go. Get his little get his little stand.
Yeah, just do 15 years. It's not a big
this
deal.
seems like he'd be a friend of yours.
Well, I can understand him. He's a man of my taste.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I could have been a colonel. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, how'd that work out for you?
I could have been a colonel. Sure.
So yeah, not surprisingly, the Canadian military was not happy.
Oh, fuck no.
They gave him, they expelled him from the forces for service misconduct, which is the most serious charge they can do. They also burned his uniform.
Yeah.
Cut up all his medals.
Yeah.
Shredded his commission scroll.
Yeah.
And crushed and scrapped his vehicle.
Yeah, it set his shit on fire.
Because they were just, like I said, they were not having it. Yeah. They were just like trying to fucking destroy the fucking shit.
Remember that Chuck Connors? Remember that Chuck Connors series called Branded?
Yeah.
Yeah, they put him through that. They fucking branded. Remember they got a big old
I
coward
remember.
on his
I was gonna say I even remember that fucking
branded his ass as a coward and kicked his ass out.
Yeah, like I said, they're taking
Yeah,
that
but
shit
it was,
serious,
but he was falsely accused. I got that was quite a good series. I remember the old cowboy series.
Yeah, pretty much all I remember is the theme song part, the thing.
It would have been better had it been directed by Sergio Leone, but it was, because
that's true.
That was kind of a little bit of a clean cut cowboy flick, and to a certain extent.
No one's dirty.
Yeah. Well, it's just it looked a little too much like guns, like Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently,
Bonanza.
Yeah.
I liked Bonanza. Okay.
I did too, kind of like my grandparents used to watch it. So apparently, this douchebag's wife, Mary Elizabeth Harriman, knew nothing about his extracurricular activities, let's call it that. Obviously, not surprisingly, she also divorced his dumbass. He's actually in a maximum security prison at the moment. However, I believe that he is still collecting a military pension while in prison. And he also still had access to, because I guess like him and his wife like jointly owned like all their properties. And I guess like after the divorce was finalized, they like split them up. So apparently he still owns one of the houses. Like I think she got one of the houses and he got one of the houses.
Right.
But it's not like he can go anywhere and like go to Vegas spend it on hookers and blow or anything like that. He's in a fucking prison. So I don't know.
never going to see the light of day.
No, and rightly so. No. I don't think he should. But yeah, so as I said, I probably won't put any in the video. Well, maybe I will just for shits and giggles, but I wasn't going to put any videos of all the pictures of him with like various underwear on. But it's like most of them, I mean, the ones that I saw, I mean, I'm sure there's like worse ones out there, but the ones that I just saw that came up like in articles about him and stuff, he was mostly just like standing. Yeah. Like, going, hey, look at this. This fits nice or whatever. It's like he was, so there were apparently like a bunch of kind of more pornographic ones where he was laying there jerking it or whatever in like ladies' underwear. It's like I don't understand that, man.
Yeah, I could feel that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
I've been there. Been there. Yeah.
Yes, you have.
I told you it's everybody does it.
Everybody. Do they?
Of course they do. Of course they do. Everybody does it. Of course they do.
Is that what you think, Dennis?
Everybody does it.
Okay. Oh shit. All right. So yeah. All right, so that was the first case of Colonel David Russell Williams, douchebag number 1 down. Yeah. Now let's talk about douchebag number 2, Luka Magnotta. Now, when I said his name, or when you saw the picture of him, you recognized it.
Did it?
Like you know. So this is not a serial killer, but.
Oh, I knew exactly what you're talking about.
He did some fucked up shit.
Yeah, this is old crazy male porn star suffocator eating his Chinese boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't his boyfriend. It was just some guy.
I thought they were dating. They were seeing each other.
I don't think they were, no.
Okay.
I think it was just a rando.
That's not how the media was portraying it at the time, that there was something going on between the two.
I don't know if there was, but I didn't see anything
he was having sex with him and ate him on a live stream.
It was kind of like that. It was a video. It wasn't a live stream.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
Yeah.
But he released that video to the internet.
He did,
I think that shit showed up on fucking 4chan.
It was on Best Gore.
Best Gore?
Bestgore.com.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's
and
still
he just got this dude, man. I saw him suffocating those puppies inside those Ziploc bags. Or kittens in a Ziploc bag. I saw that video of him doing that. And I was just going like, I'm going to cut that dude's head off.
This guy, actually, I just read that December 18th, which is only like a couple weeks from now, I think Netflix is putting out a documentary that's about this case and about like how the internet like kind of conspired to like catch this guy. Yeah. And it's called Don't Fuck with Cats.
Yeah, don't fuck with them kittens.
Yeah, that's what the name of the thing is.
He was trying to make suffocating those kittens look real cute and everything. He's sitting there like it's like it's a gay sexual experience or something.
This dude's awesome.
And I was just going like, this dude needs a Mexican face peel.
Yeah, at the very least.
Yeah. Connor Vatslan's out there. He's listening to me. He knows what a Mexican face peel is. He sent me some photos of that shit. You know what that is?
You fucking guys, man.
Yeah. Actually, he didn't send me pictures of that. He sent me pictures of some dude setting another dude on fire. Okay. That was a video.
What's a Mexican face peel?
Mexican face peel is when you run up on a dude and knock him out. Bam! And when he's knocked out, you and your team fucking
Cut his
jump
face
on
off.
him. You cut his hands off, and then you take. You know how you scalp somebody?
Yeah.
Instead of scalping the top,
You
of
just
you
take their
scalp
face
the
off.
face.
Sure, okay.
And
That's what
when
I
they
was
come
imagining.
to, they can't figure out what's wrong with their face, and then they got no hands and shit. And it's fucking evil.
That's some Hellraiser shit right
Yeah, evil. Because it's just, the guy looks like a skull, just teeth, no nose, and eyeballs.
there. Yeah.
And they're like, ah! Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, no, they wouldn't be doing that because they don't have any hands.
Well, it's just stumps.
Yeah, they would just be stumps.
Yeah. And they run off, they take the shit. They don't kill the guy, so you can't graft it back on. I don't know if they live. I think they probably can live like that.
You probably could.
Yeah.
The shock might kill you or the blood loss, but it would depend.
I didn't see much blood coming from them fucking stumps. I think maybe they wired it.
Like they put a
like a
tourniquet?
tourniquet, yeah. But evidently it was a bunch of guys working fast did it. It's punishment.
Yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
one thing you could
There's
call
another one where a guy was accused of, this is in Mexico, a guy was accused of raping some kid. So the cartels, the local cartels are kind of like Robin Hoods in a way. They, there's no law and order where they're operating, so they're the cops. And they, so the cartel guys grabbed old boy, stripped his ass naked and was holding his arms like that, and they let a pit bull loose on him, and that pit bull grabbed him right by the junk and just ripped it off.
Well, yeah, that's what they'll do.
That's what they did.
Yep.
They were laughing. Just all you gotta do is you can find the shit. Just look cartel victim video. You look at that shit on fucking DuckDuckGo.
Well, like I said, apparently you can find all kind of
You can
shit.
find all that.
Because this asshole right here uploaded all kind of crazy shit to the internet.
Yeah.
He did get reported, but they didn't find him till later on.
Yeah.
So, Luka Magnotta, that is actually not his real name. He was born Eric Clinton Kirk Newman. So, yeah, as you said, he was like a porn actor, model, shit like that. So, he was actually born in 1982 in Ontario and legally changed his name to Luka Rocco Magnotta in August of 2006. Now, in 2003, he started to appear in, like, gay porno videos. He also worked as a male escort. He worked as a stripper. He was a pinup model in, there's like a gay magazine in Toronto, I think it's called Fab. And he appeared in there like under a pseudonym. Now, as far as I know, the first time that he committed a crime was
He wasn't cute. Looked like a cracked out Peter Pan with acne.
Yeah, he was real. He was a real zit face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
He's in prison now, man. Fuck you.
well, yeah.
Zit face.
Yeah, it's like, what did they? I guess they airbrushed it out. And fucking shit. They can like airbrush it out. But yeah, so the first crimes apparently that he was caught for in 2005, he was convicted of 1 count of impersonation, 3 counts of fraud against like some stores, because he apparently impersonated a woman to apply for a credit card, and he got a credit card and then ran up like $10,000 worth of charges.
Yeah.
So he actually pled guilty to that and got like he got a 9-month sentence and then 12 months probation. Now in 2007, and if anybody saw this show, because I'm guessing he was on TV. So I guess there was a reality show on Out TV called Cover Guy. And I guess it was like, like a gay model competition, like a reality show. And he was apparently on there, like competing to win, but he did not win. That same year, 2007, he also declared bankruptcy and apparently owed $17,000 in various debts. Now, for whatever reason, that same year, rumors started swirling around, which maybe he was responsible for, that he was in a relationship with the infamous Karla Homolka, who we did a show about her and Paul Bernardo on I think it was on one of our Valentine's Day shows about like killer couples. Those 2 fucking assholes.
I don't remember
up in Canada.
Oh, those 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So
He was involved with a girl.
Well, there's no evidence of that.
Here's the thing, though. He was claiming to be gay, but there was so many pictures of him with like girls in the hot tubs and shit, and evidently there was porn going on. And he was just a freak, I think.
Or he might have just been gay for pay, because that's kind of common too.
Maybe, but he acted gay.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was kind of put on. To me, it was over the top, and he just seemed to be. You know how I was telling you about serial killers? they're sociopaths and they just seem to be kind of fake and lizard-like.
Yeah.
And that everything is some kind of an act. He seemed like that too.
Yeah.
So nothing about him seemed genuine. Like
everything was like a put on.
Everything was like a put on, and he's like a robot.
Well, and I do feel like too, because I mean, like I said, he tried to be on this fucking reality show. Then he, like I said, there were rumors that he was dating Karla Homolka. I think that he started those rumors, even though he denied it. The Toronto police actually reported that he was, but then they said, no, never mind. We don't really have any hardcore evidence of that. But he had like a whole bunch of plastic surgeries. In 2008, he tried to be on another reality show that's called Plastic Makes Perfect. So I guess it was like, a show like The Swan or something like that, where it's like, fucking plastic surgery.
He reminded me of?
What's that?
Remember that old loser, incel loser that was also kind of fucking wimpy, kind of pretty boy type dude, talking about how awesome he was and that the women didn't love him, and he went on some kind of damn shooting spree. He's like
there were so many of those. Elliot Rodger?
Elliot Rodgers, the poster child. He was like a tweaked out, cracked out Elliot Rodgers, but blonde. That's the way he kind of like. Yeah. You know how Rodgers kind of had that robotic kind of. There just was like a lot of parallels. They kind of reminded me. He reminded me of that guy.
Yeah, this is like the same type of dude.
That's like the same kind of problem with whatever's wrong with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, weird. So not only did this douche like try to get on TV a bunch of times, but evidently he also had 70 different Facebook pages and 20 different websites that he had registered under different names that he used apparently to like spread rumors and stuff about himself. That's why I'm saying that I think that he started that rumor about the Karla Homolka thing, so it would get him like attention, and then he like denied it.
How the hell do you have time to run 70
See, this is, I don't know. I don't even have time to look at mine, and I have one. You know what I mean?
He's dedicated to himself, and
I guess. So it's like that. Yeah, that's the thing. So, but the weird thing is that he was maintaining them, apparently, but then he was saying that, all the stuff and the rumors on, that's not true, and that's just like cyber stalking, and like people are picking on me and shit like that.
Victimizing himself.
Yeah, it was like that kind of thing. Allegedly. I'm just saying it was allegedly.
No, that sounds about right.
Yeah, but he sounds like that type of person.
Yeah, it sounds
like he was going to make it look like all these people hated him, but really it was all his.
Yeah.
It was all him.
He was making his own. He was kicking up his own dust storm.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Making himself seem real fucking important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
that's like owning a bunch of newspapers and having all your newspapers attack one of your other newspapers.
Yeah,
so you can grandstand. That's fucking funny. What made him think of that? Maybe that's a common tactic that.
It might be that a certain type of personality.
That minor celebrities might do that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's any way to get attention.
Right.
And negativity gets attention more than positivity, sadly.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like some people have figured this shit out, that's how you get attention.
Yeah, evidently a lot of shit that celebrities who are famous for being famous, like Kardashians and all this, that's the kind of shit that they do. Is that
it wouldn't surprise me.
That a lot of their what they call press, a lot of their press is self-generated fake shit.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's all about
to keep them
in the public consciousness. Sure.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's what you do. If that's your whole bread and butter,
right,
is people paying attention to you.
Yeah, even
then
though you don't
have
do
to
anything.
Get people to pay attention to you by any means necessary.
Yeah, and if you're one of those celebrities that is famous for doing nothing, for just being famous.
Yeah, every now and then you got to leak a sex tape or something like that, and then just say, I didn't do that. That
release
totally was
rumors
not me.
about yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to do that shit because, like I said, any publicity is good publicity. Everybody knows that.
I think that's the way it used to work. I'm not sure it works that way anymore. I think social media, because remember back in the day when the National Enquirer and the Sun was the main way to get that kind of attention, because they were so minor that they couldn't show up on television. So everything was just, those magazines sold at the checkout counter. But I think the advent of social media has made a lot of that obsolete.
Well, yeah, because you can just have a famous Twitter account.
Yeah, just Twitter,
and you can just go on there and do
so
all
glad
kinds
I
of
never
stupid
got
shit.
involved in that Twitter because most of the shit, most of YouTube is complaining about Twitter.
I don't ever go on there, honestly.
Yeah.
I have a 13 o'clock account, but when I post shit on my blog or on YouTube, it just posts it on Twitter automatically, so I never go over there and look.
Yeah.
So it does post it on the account, but I don't look at it.
Is there even any interaction on Twitter?
Every now and then, but not usually.
Just people making comments on something?
I don't even remember the last time I got a Twitter. Like some people will retweet it and stuff like that, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Most of our interaction is, on YouTube or they'll send me emails or Facebook or whatever.
A good portion of the Facebook video content is people just talking about how bad the people on Twitter are. You know what I mean? Just because all they do is just fuck with each other there. I'm glad
like I
never
said,
got
it's
into
just
that shit.
It just I don't know. I don't know
And
why
they're
people
scared
don't.
to death of getting kicked off of Twitter.
I don't know why people don't have anything better to do. That's just know what I mean. It's like I don't have enough hours in the day to do everything I want to do. It's
Facebook
like
is bad enough.
I can't imagine. Like I said, I only go on Facebook every few days because it's like I just can't. I don't have time.
I just
to get sucked into that
use
shit.
Messenger or to find somebody that I already know to ask them what's going on. People that we know from the club.
Yeah.
But that data stream where everybody's just talking to each other? I never look at that shit.
No, I hardly ever look at that.
They're in there fighting like fucking cats and dogs. And the people you know are talking shit about people that you know.
Yeah.
And you're like, man.
Well, like I said, I just use it, like I said, I message people that I don't have their email addresses. It's useful for that. I kind of keep up with my family because they live other places. And I post our shows.
Yeah.
That's it. And like I said, I only go on there a couple times a week.
I got Mexico sending me booty pictures constantly.
That's right. I saw that.
Just every time fucking Jair fucking send me some message, it's girls with machine guns and booties.
He's just trying to get your attention for the message. He's like, here's a butt.
Boom,
okay, now here's what I
It's a male bonding thing. Look at them titties. It's good, man.
He does this. This is very funny because like when we go to Independent Bar, when we go on Saturday nights, our friend Lee, who's the bartender, he's an ass man also.
Yeah.
So we'll sit in the front bar because we get there really early. And so like him and Lee, we'll all be talking and then suddenly there'll be silence. Yeah. And both of them will be staring out the front window of the bar because the front of the bar is all glass and it's like it's downtown Orlando. It's like
he gave me the signal.
Yeah, so they have some kind of weird psychic male thing that's like, hey, ass. And then they both shut up and then they both look out the window. It's very, very funny.
There's a thing that guys do when they see something and they want you to look at it. He's just like this. He's imagine you're me. Okay, look at me. I'm Lee, right? It's like this. It's like.
I know, I've seen him do that.
Yeah, it's like...
You're not that slick about it, because, I do see that exchange.
Yeah, he's like... Hey, and I'm like... Oh.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, and he knows immediately. Ass. And I know, and I know at this point, because we've known Lee a long time.
I go, Jenny,
look at the butt, look at her. Every now and then I'll see one and be like, oh, shit, look at that. Because we get to see everybody walking by, you know what I mean? Because that's kind of like a main corner.
Men like novelty.
I guess so. Look at that one. All right. Now, after that, let's talk about a gruesome murder.
Okay.
So like I said, this fucking douchebag has all these fucking other accounts and stuff that he apparently uses to abuse himself or get attention or whatever the fuck it is that he's doing. So, at this stage, here comes the murder. Now, the victim's name was Lin Jun. He also went by the name Justin Lin. He was actually an international student. He was Chinese, but he had been in Montreal since 2011. He was a engineering and computer science student. He also worked part-time at a convenience store. Now, apparently at the beginning of May of 2012, he had just moved into a nearby apartment with a roommate. Now, he was last seen only a couple weeks later, May 24th, 2012. His friend said they got a text message from him about 9 p.m. on that day, and after that, nothing. He totally went missing and everything. So his boss, got worried when he didn't show up for work the next day. And as a couple days went on and they didn't hear from him, so his friends, broke into his apartment and found that he wasn't there. So they reported him missing on May 29th. Now, 4 days prior to that, on May 25th, 2012, there was an 11-minute video, and the title of this video was One Lunatic, One Ice Pick. This was uploaded to bestgore.com. In this video, a naked Asian man was tied to a bed frame, repeatedly stabbed with an ice pick and a kitchen knife, and then cut apart, and the dead body sexually molested.
He ate parts of it too,
and yeah,
or pretended to at least. I don't know if he actually.
Yeah, they said that that the guy who we now know as Luka Magnotta, who cut pieces off the body with like a knife and fork, and got a dog to chew on the body also. Yeah. So apparently in the Wikipedia page very helpfully said in the background of the video was, unfortunately, the very cool New Order song, True Faith, was playing in the background. Also, there was a Casablanca poster on the wall that was visible in the background.
Now, at the time that this all happened, the word was that they were seeing each other, that there was a relationship.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the shit I read didn't really mention that.
That aspect dropped away, and from what I remember, what happened is that his Chinese parents didn't know when they heard this gay thing. They're like, oh, no, he wasn't gay, and you know what I mean. That doesn't fly in China.
Yeah.
So I think the media dropped the gay angle from the story.
Maybe.
For the family in China.
Right.
But the way I remember it is that they were dating.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they were or not.
Yeah.
Like I
That's
said,
how I remember it. And correct me if I'm wrong. But that was the last I heard.
Yeah.
Now that might have been Magnotta. His name's Magnotta, right? Last name Magnotta?
Yeah.
That might have been Magnotta lying about it.
Right, that's what I mean. That you'd really only have his word for it.
I think it came from him that they were seeing each other.
Yeah, I don't really know if they knew each other prior to this or not. So apparently the video that had been posted on the internet, I guess there was like a longer version of that, and the Canadian police were able to get their hands on it. And apparently there was some cannibalism going on in there, that was more clear. So they were able to determine that this was not a hoax, that this was a real video. And they also noticed that I guess Luka had been like promoting, like 10 days before this video went up. It's almost like he was like priming like the site. He's like, you guys wait until you see what's good. Yeah, he was like promoting it like more than a week before it went up. So shortly after the video went up, a guy in Montana tried to report it to the Toronto police, but it didn't really get taken seriously at the time. Also, users on Bescore tried to report it also. And then, May 29th, the same day that Lin Jun was reported missing, there was a package turned up at the headquarters of the Conservative Party in Canada. And this package was like, it stunk really bad, and it was covered with blood, and it had like a red heart drawn on it. Inside was a left foot. And also there was another package that had a left hand in it. Now this was actually addressed to the Liberal Party, but it was intercepted at a post office before it got there, because I guess the first one got there and then they were like on the lookout for another one. So those two had been sent out. A janitor at an apartment complex also found a suitcase that had a decomposing torso inside of it that had been left in a garbage pile in an alley. Apparently it had been there since the 25th. So when cops came and searched the area, they found more of the human remains, like body parts. They found a bunch of bloody clothes. They found... I guess it was Lin Jun's like identification, so they knew who it was. So they found like a bunch of shit in this alley. They also got the footage from the surveillance cameras that were around this apartment complex, and it showed Luka Magnotta, who they couldn't identify him from the video, but they later found out that it was him. They showed him like bringing the garbage bags outside and the suitcase and everything and putting it there.
How old were those tapes?
No, this was from only a few days before.
Okay, yeah.
Because he had dumped the body out.
So surrounding buildings have those tapes for at least a few days before they're erased and recycled.
Yeah, I guess it's not like it used to be where it's like you'd run out of tape and then you had to like record over it because it was only so much. I mean, because memory's so cheap nowadays. So I feel like you could probably
They probably have months of it.
Well, yeah, I feel like, and probably you have to keep a certain amount,
right?
Like just for just this purpose, like for like investigation purposes. Maybe, in fact, it might like automatically upload to the cloud for 30 days or a year even, and then like would automatically erase. I would imagine that's probably what it does.
That's just a lot of data.
It is, but I'm just saying that
I guess you can
nowadays it's not really, like I said, if it just uploaded straight to the cloud, you might be able to like, you have some server somewhere that'll keep it for like 90 days or whatever.
I've been hearing that all these new signs and all these new intersections that are going up are all 5Gs and there's cameras on them. All of them.
Maybe, they already have cameras on them. Like all the major intersections do.
Yeah, but it's like built in because it happens automatically now.
Yeah.
Everything's recorded.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long they keep it. But
yeah.
I would imagine.
Like I said, I imagine it's not forever, but
yeah.
just in case, like in this particular case, like
you'd think at least be months.
Yeah.
I would think.
So they could come back and like find out.
Makes you wonder what they can do with AI and facial recognition. I mean, how good is it?
Yeah.
How good is all that stuff? I mean, if they go, I want to know where Tom Ross is at all times, you know what I mean? They give him my face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I showing up, driving through intersections on my motorcycle, even though I got my helmet on?
I don't know.
Is it that good?
See, I doubt it. Because your helmet is like pretty like dark, like the thing is dark.
But what if I'm driving the car? Does that thing see me and go, "There's Ross, that fucker"?
That's exactly what they're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how good it is nowadays. You would think that. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's probably decent, but you know, what if you're
can't
wearing,
be that
like,
good because
that's what I mean. It's like it's through the windshield. What if you have sunglasses on,
how
or
good
what if
could
a
it
fake
be?
mustache?
How good could it be? Because there are people committing crimes right now they can't catch.
That they can't catch them. So it's like it can't be that great.
Yeah.
Plus, like I said, it's like it could get messed up easy.
But then you could get all Alex Jones and say, "Oh no, it's good. It's really good." It's just that they don't want you to know how good it is. They'd rather let all those criminals go than to give up the damn. What you saying? What? Cat's calling me. What's up?
The matter, Beijing?
I'm almost done, Beijing.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's like the end of the world.
I know it is.
Yeah.
So
she's pissed. She's looking at running out.
Yeah, she flicks her little tail.
Yeah,
she's
she
like,
constantly says, "Fuck you."
Yeah. She's a little bitchy.
Yeah, she's bitch.
She's older. She's like 10 or something.
Yeah, she's snooty.
She is a little snooty.
Very, very
it's very funny how different the personalities of our two cats are. They're like polar opposites.
She has always been that way since she was a kitten. She thinks she's like Paris Hilton.
She's exactly like Paris Hilton. I can't believe I have to endure this bullshit.
Yeah.
She's very much like that. Like when you don't do something she wants, she's just like,
yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And she goes, I've never heard a cat just do that.
Yeah, she's just exasperated with how lame you are for not doing what she wants you to do.
It's ridiculous.
Where the other cat is just the opposite. Yeah. Like Baby Cookie is more like,
she's like a titty baby, just constantly whining.
She's like a little baby, but she's also like a little she's like a little tomboy kind of. Yeah. It's like she always just wants to play and wrestle and shit like that. She gets kind of upset if you don't do stuff.
If you don't let her out, she starts crying.
But then she'll forget about it after, and then she'll be like, "Whatever, I still love you." And
all right, so we got to get back to this.
Yeah. So, so the video of this douche like dumping these bodies in this alley, they said that guy looks like the same guy that was captured on the surveillance footage from a post office where they think that the body parts were mailed from. Right, so they're closing in on this dude. So they figure out which apartment the guy had come out of, which was apartment 208 at this apartment building. And that was the one that Luka Magnotta lived in. Now, they went in there, they got a warrant, and they looked in there. Now, he had already left the apartment, like most of his shit was gone. However, they did find blood on a bunch of stuff. They found like blood on the mattress in the bedroom. They found blood on like the table in the dining room, on the refrigerator. There was blood in the bathtub, which is apparently where he cut the body up.
I saw the video.
Yeah. I think I've seen it also.
I saw the video and it's really poor quality. You can't tell what's going on. I just saw little excerpts of it. And then, but what was more entertaining is I just read a guy's synopsis of it.
Yeah.
Who watched it. And he said that, the dude was a douchebag and that he was trying to make a huge production and trying to come across like he's some kind of criminal mastermind. But every single thing he did on that video, on that tape, was something that he saw from a movie or a music video.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff that he was doing was like straight out of like something off a 9 Inch Nails video, and then he did something else that was kind of like something off of like a Hannibal Lecter scene out of Hannibal Lecter. Nothing was original about it. The quality of his quality of the filmography, I guess you could say, was really shitty. You know, real low res, and it's not even really scary. It's more like fucking just mundane and boring and kind of like horrible, but not like what you'd think, because the way it's filmed, it's so low quality, it just doesn't look real.
Yeah,
it doesn't look real. Remember I was saying, some of that stuff that comes from those serial killers, you see it doesn't look real. Like remember when the videotapes of like those two shitbags that were killing the whole family,
Leonard Lake,
and yeah, they got girls in there telling them what they're going to do to them, and it just looks like role play. It doesn't look real.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I guess because you're not usually in that type of situation, so it seems it has like a surreal quality.
A surreal quality,
which I feel like this does too, because it's like it's not every day that you see a person like murdered and cut up like for real, like on a video.
Yeah, but he was like evidently, according to the synopsis that I read, that he pretended to eat part of it, but you could see that he was more like acting like he was eating it.
Yeah. Although the cops did say that there was some cannibalism going on in there, but I guess that wasn't part of like the one that was uploaded, but they had like a longer version, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, so they searched this dude's house. They found all his shit's gone mostly, but they found like traces of blood everywhere. They also said in one of the closets, somebody had written in red ink, "If you don't like the reflection, don't look in the mirror."
I think he did chew on some of it, but he was doing it for the benefit of the camera, not necessarily because he wanted to do it. He was just putting on a fucking show. Yeah. That's according to the person that, it's better just to read the damn synopsis.
Yeah. Yeah, don't watch the video.
Just go through the shit, yeah.
Because I'm sure it's on there. It's on there.
It's on there somewhere, but it's just bullshit.
But it just seems like, I know it's horrible to say, but this seems like a guy that just all he wanted was attention.
Yeah.
And he wasn't getting attention through conventional means, like through being cool or anything like that.
So he was pretending to be this fucking super villain.
So it's like edgelordy, but like taken to a horrible extreme.
Yeah. He was killing people and he was doing all this shit, but it was fake. He was doing it for attention.
Yeah, he's like, look what a badass
I'm doing. It's like it wasn't.
Look what a freak I am.
It's like it wasn't even really coming from within him. It was something he was pretending.
It's like
to
a pose,
be. He's pretending to be all this shit.
Yeah, which in a way makes it worse because like that poor fucking guy.
He had that robotic kind of quality to him. It's because he didn't have an identity.
Yeah.
So he was trying to kind of like invent one.
Yeah, it does very clearly seem like that. So, at this stage, at the end of May, they were able to confirm that that the video, as well as all the body parts that they had found that had been mailed to different places, belonged to Lynn June, who had been missing since the 29th, or had been reported missing on the 29th. Now, they did figure out the suspect was Luka Magnotta, but at that point, he had got the fuck out of Dodge. So they sent out, they started an international manhunt. Now, the package that had the foot in it that had been sent to the Conservative Party headquarters, there was a note in there, and it said that 6 body parts had been distributed to various places, and it said that the person that did it would kill again. So this was, again, more of his, self-aggrandizing kind of I'm the killer and I'm going to do it again. Now, apparently there were notes in some of the other packages too, but I guess the cops didn't release what they said because they didn't want to encourage copycat crimes. So I don't think the public knows what those ones said. Now, there was actually another package that contained the right foot, and that showed up at St. George's School on June 5th. And then there was a package with a right hand in it that was sent to an elementary school in Vancouver. And they were able to confirm, obviously, that these were also Lynn June's body parts. So they matched them all up using DNA and everything like that. They eventually found the poor guy's head on the 1st of July of that year. It was left on the bank of a lake or something like that. So they put out an arrest warrant for Luka Magnotta by the Montreal police, and then the Royal Canadian Mounted Police did a Canada-wide thing. Obviously, the charges they were, going to charge him with: first-degree murder, obviously, committing an indignity to a dead body, publishing obscene material, which is when they didn't really use all that much.
Why do they go with these little minor fucking...
Well, because they want to make sure that... Because they can add on. You know what I mean? It's like, what if they get away with, like, the worst thing? They still want to be able to, like, have something that they can put them in jail for at least some time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so I can see why they do that. Like, they stack it up just, like, to fucking cover all the bases. That dude was on
video. He wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they had, like, plenty of fucking evidence. Yeah. So he also got mailing obscene, indecent, immoral, scurrilous material and criminally harassing the Prime Minister and other members of Parliament because he had sent the packages there.
Damn.
So he gets, like, the Interpol, like, red notice. I guess that's, like, the top of the website. They put your fucking face all over this. Like, everybody in the world is looking for this motherfucker. So, so they're like, anybody that catches him, like, send his ass back to Canada because we're going to, like, fucking kick his ass. So he apparently, they found out later, that he had actually flown from Montreal to Paris on May 26th, which was the day after the video was posted. He used a false passport at the time under the name Kirk Trammell. Now, they were able to track his cell phone to a hotel there in France in a town called Bagnolet. But by the time police got there, he had already left. Although they did find a bunch of porno magazines in his hotel room, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Apparently, he knew some people in Paris, and he had been staying with him. I don't think they knew, like,
who he was
or, like, what the thing, because he had met them, like, several years before. So apparently then, like, after he took off from the hotel, he got on a bus and went to Germany, like, went to Berlin. Now, in Berlin, he was apparently sitting in an internet cafe.
Yeah, I saw a video of it.
And watching, like, reading news about himself.
Yeah, and they fucking arrested
him. Found him. Yeah, the police found him.
Yeah, the Pole's eye ran in there.
Yep.
Like a little mini SWAT team. They got him.
Yep. And at first, he tried to give them a fake name, like, no, that's totally not me, but they didn't buy it. And then they fingerprinted him, and they're like, yeah, that totally is.
I mean, you see the dude's face, you can't mistake him.
He's very distinctive looking.
You can't mistake him for anybody else.
Yeah. So apparently, they're like, okay, well, we're going to extradite you back to Canada. You going to fight that shit? And he's like, no. So they did, like, a simplified extradition, and they sent him back to Canada. And apparently they sent him, like, on a military plane because they didn't want him on the, like, a commercial flight, and they were like, they didn't want it in case it got diverted or something, or he could do something really bad or anything like that. So apparently, like, when the crime came, apparently, like, when his parents came over and shit like that, they were kind of pissed because they thought maybe the crime had been racially motivated, and that, like, that the public was not, or the press was not reporting that, because apparently there had been another murder of, like, another Chinese student, like, that same year or prior year. So, they thought, what is, like, Canada not safe for us now? Like, what the fuck is going on? So all that kind of shit. But, so that happened, but there was also, apparently the guy that owned bestgore.com, where the video had been posted, he got arrested also.
Oh, really?
They charged him with, corrupting morals, which is, they said that's a charge they don't usually use.
Yeah.
But they wanted to, like, punish somebody for, like, allowing that shit to be uploaded.
How much time did he get?
I don't know, actually. I don't think he kind of got, I think he just got a fine or something like that.
Is that site still there?
I don't know. I didn't look.
I remember
I'm not looking that shit up.
I remember back in the 90s, there was, like, a predecessor to that. They had some weird-ass fucking crime photos on that. That was, like, right when I got out of the Army. It's called Gore Gallery.
I remember that.
Yeah, and Gore Gallery, most of it was just crime scene photos. They didn't come.
Yeah.
And some of them were things that were taken from serial killers.
Yeah.
They had some weird shit on it.
I remember that site. I think I went on
some of it was
times.
famous. Some of it was like some of Jeffrey Dahmer's pictures.
Yeah.
And stuff. It was weird.
Because, like I said, you can find this shit if you look. Yeah. It's like, it's out there. Even sometimes accidentally. Like, because, I research true crime shit all the time. And, like, sometimes I'm like, man, I really hope there's not any... Oh, man, there's one. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't really want to see it, but then it's kind of there anyway. Because I'm not going to put safe search on, because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I might, like, not get some shit.
Actually, the worst shit that's out there is Mexican cartel stuff.
I believe it.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Because those dudes know what they're doing. They're working with efficiency, and they work in volume. I mean, they'll do 20 people.
Yeah.
Chop them up, do weird things with the skulls, make them look like some kind of damn Aztec fucking sacrifice displays, you know what I mean? Just skulls with bones, and trying to give their enemies the message, don't fuck with us.
Yeah.
And, man, you know what I mean? They some of that Jeffrey Dahmer stuff, and you see some crime photos that other people do, it looks amateurish. These dudes are just like, I'm kind of experienced, when it comes to field dressing deer, and hunting game, and these dudes are good with the human body. I mean,
Yeah.
they can reduce a human down to pieces in minutes, and you can tell that they're very experienced with it, and they're not bashful. Like, I'm not bashful dealing with deer. I think with human beings,
That might be a little different.
It'd be yeah.
I mean, I would hope it would be a little bit different.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm trying to think of the environment that they're doing it in. They're doing it in a team, and they're doing it in the open or in a safe environment, and probably with good lighting. So you probably doesn't have this macabre horror movie feel to it. Like when you're field dressing a deer, it doesn't have a horror movie feel to it.
Right.
It's just like cutting meat in the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's like that. The deer's
so maybe
long
they
gone.
kind of like feel the same way.
I think
about
they
it.
feel the same way. I think they don't really have. I think they get used to it.
Yeah.
I think the emotional part is what they're doing to a live person.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff that you see in the photographs is post-mortem. A lot of it.
Yeah.
Not all of it. But I've seen some bad photos come from Mexico.
Yeah. I know.
Some of it funny though. They had this one cartel who grabbed a bunch of snitches who ratted on them. I guess they had pretty good control of the town, and they didn't kill them. It was just men and women. They made them take off all their clothes and gave them a bunch of body paint, and they had to paint themselves up like superheroes, like Batman and Spider-Man, and it had to be exact.
Yeah.
And then they walked them down the middle of the town. There's your superheroes.
Okay.
Walking down the middle of town nude, making fun of them. You want to be superheroes? There's your superheroes. They got a dude standing in there, painted up like Spider-Man. I don't know the whole story about it. Somebody in the audience might know the story of that one. That one's pretty famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this douchebag, he's put on trial, and he insisted on a trial by a jury, and he also pled not guilty. But he did get indicted on all the charges and everything like that. So, as you were mentioning before, this douchebag is also allegedly the person who there was a series of videos that had been posted to YouTube, and this was starting in 2010. There were several of them, and they were all cruelty toward cats.
Yeah.
There was one that was called One Boy, Two Kittens. Which showed a man whose apparently his face was not in the video. He was suffocating two kittens with a vacuum cleaner.
I didn't see that one.
Now, as I said before, apparently the Netflix documentary that's coming out about it, they're kind of like talking about this and how they identified this guy, because a whole bunch of animal rights groups had seen these videos and started like all these Facebook groups trying to find out who this motherfucker was.
Yeah.
Like they raised like all this money and they were like trying to find out who he was. And they're pretty sure now that was him.
The one I saw, he was sitting on a bed and he had a little bitty kitten, and he put it inside of like a 1 gallon Ziploc bag, and it used up all the air. It was poor, terrible.
I can't watch that kind of shit.
Yeah, terrible.
It's like we started
and he
watching.
was watching it like it was beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, oh, isn't that cute? And I was just like, man, fucking.
What a fucking. Ugh.
Yeah, I need to hand him over to those cartels.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything about that.
Yeah.
He apparently also made one of a python, like a Burmese python, eating a kitten alive.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they've been. I mean, I'm sure they're somewhere, but I'm sure YouTube has taken them down. I mean, this was 8 or 9 years ago.
Somebody's got them, I'm sure, archived.
Yeah. And apparently, like some of the animal rights groups that were trying to catch him, what they did was they were trying to draw him out by accusing him of that very famous Hollywood sign murder. Like that guy, I think his name was Harvey Medellin or whatever that guy's name was, that they found dead by the Hollywood sign. So apparently this animal rights group like went on Facebook and accused him of that because they wanted to find out who it was, like before they found out who it was. Right. Like I said, they're not entirely sure, but they're pretty sure that Luka Magnotta is also responsible for those animal cruelty videos.
I thought Luka's face was in the video.
It might have been, yeah. I mean, but it might be a thing where it's like
there was a bunch of them.
Yeah, maybe it was like a bunch of them, or like they're like, oh, we're not entirely sure it's him or whatever. So yeah, that's that fucking dirtbag. So we've probably gone on, we're about the halfway point. So we will take a break right now. And when we come back, we will talk about Bruce McArthur, who was a very prolific serial killer. Like I said, allegedly started serial killing in his late 50s, early 60s, but they think that he might be responsible for a bunch of murders in the 1970s as well.
It's late enough for me to get a drink.
Yeah. And we'll also talk about the horrible, horrible murder of Tim McLean before the end of the show. So we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
What are we doing? Oh, it's the foot fetish. Yeah, okay, now you're going over there. Hey, what's up? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I know. I'm gonna come down here and see you. I know. Oh my goodness, she just loves those feet. You love feet. I don't know why. Here, come here. I'll come down and see you. She's like, no, you're ruining it. You're ruining it. What you doing? Yeah? What you doing? Hey. How's Pookie this morning? How are you doing, baby cookie? Hey. Oh my goodness. Look at that little face. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, under the bridge. It's like, yep, and then I'm just gonna lay here. It's like, look, Catherine, there's my knee, and there's her back half.
You love true crime. I love true crime. And I've spent the last 3 years compiling a series of the most intriguing unsolved murders of the 20th century. It's called The Faceless Villain, and Volume 3 is available now. Featuring such fascinating cases as the Ketty murders, the Carrie Babies case, the Frog Boys, the Alcasar murders, and the Inokashira Park dismemberment incident, The Faceless Villain Volume 3 is an involving exploration of unsolved slayings spanning the years from 1980 to 1999. Pick up your copy in print or ebook formats on Amazon, or download the audiobook version from audible.com, and get ready for a chilling journey through modern crime history. All right, we're back talking about Canadian crimes. Now let's talk about Bruce McArthur, who, this is actually fairly recent that they caught him. I think they only arrested him in early 2018, and he only recently pled guilty to 8 counts of murder in early 2019. So, as I said, this is a fairly recent case, and most of the people he murdered, it happened between 2010 and 2017. This was a guy who apparently was targeting gay men in Toronto's gay village. It's like a few particular blocks where like all the bars and shit are. So apparently he was stalking this area and taking victims from there, and also picking up victims from various like dating sites, like gay male dating sites and things like that. Now, like I said, this is a guy who, when they caught him in early 2018, he was 66 years old. Now, the strange thing about this, I was watching this show, it's like a Canadian show called The Fifth Estate, and they were talking about this. And they said, there actually was, this was 8 murders that they know of. They said, but actually back in the 70s, there was a whole bunch of other murders and disappearances that happened in the same area. And almost all of gay men. And they are speculating that Bruce McArthur might have been responsible for those as well, because he would have been in his mid to late 20s at that time.
That was him.
I kind of feel like it probably was too. They don't have any definitive evidence, particularly because like the crimes that happened a long time ago, homosexuality had only just been decriminalized, I believe, in 1969 in that part of Canada. So it was still very much, it was kind of scary because they showed, they said in that area they used to do like they didn't do like a pride parade yet, but they did like a drag show, and they did like a parade and stuff. And even in the early 80s, like all these people would come to like throw rocks at them and shit like that, call them faggots and shit like that. So it's like, it was bad. And it's like, and people were like afraid, like people in the alleys, like, you know, that were coming to and from the show would get beat up and shit like that. So there was like a lot of animosity toward the gay community, like even that late in the late 70s and early 80s. So a lot of times when people that were coming and going from the bars would get beat up or shit like that, a lot of times they wouldn't report it because they didn't think the cops would do anything about it. And it really does seem like, sadly, it seems like that fear was partially justified, because it does seem like a lot of the crimes were not investigated even when they were reported.
They were doing the same shit to us.
True.
Yeah. Marilyn Manson! If you throwing fucking shit at us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like, I don't understand that, man. It's like, come on, man. This isn't Frankenstein. It's
times
like with the fucking
changed.
Villagers with the pitchforks. Knock that shit off, man.
Times have
Leave people alone.
Changed. Times have
you know? And it's like, it was just making me so mad, like, watching this shit. But so apparently, like, a lot of disappearances and murders happened back then in the 70s, too. Yeah. But it wasn't really, like, investigated to any great extent. So there is some speculation, and I'm kind of leaning toward this too. Like I said, they don't have any definitive evidence, but they are still exploring this possibility and like going through all the cold case files and stuff. I believe it's like 600 cold case files, because once they caught Bruce McArthur and noticed like his MO and like the types of victims he targeted and stuff like that, they're like, okay, well, it's very likely that this guy was probably responsible for the ones that happened back in the 70s as well, and just got away with it because it wasn't investigated. So old Bruce McArthur was born in Ontario in 1951, was raised on a farm. Now, apparently, his parents were very well regarded. I don't think there was anything like weird about his childhood or anything like that. They were known as like really, they fostered like a lot of like orphan kids and stuff like that. So they were like very well liked in the neighborhood and very like well looked upon because of that. Had a good reputation and whatnot. Nothing really weird from Bruce's like school time at school or anything like that. He went to like a one-room schoolhouse, so I guess this was like pretty rural back in the 50s. Other students said he was kind of like a tattletale, like try to be a teacher's pet, like telling on people and stuff like that, because I guess he didn't get along with the other kids.
An approval seeker.
So he kind of had that type of personality. Yeah. Now there was a little bit of kind of conflict between his parents because they were different religions. I think his mom was an Irish Catholic and his dad was Scottish Presbyterian, and apparently they were both super religious, so there was like a lot of like infighting and stuff. And apparently Bruce was kind of on his mom's side for a time, but then because his dad used to pick on him because he thought that he was gay, which he did come out as gay later, but like the dad was like picking on him about it, like saying he wasn't a man and all this other kind of shit. So Bruce kind of sided with his mom in like these kind of religious disputes. At the time he goes to high school, he meets this girl. I don't know if this is high school, it's secondary school. I don't know if that's high school or college, because I know that like the Canadian system is a little bit different. He starts dating this girl named Janice Campbell, and they both graduated in 1970, and they later got married when Bruce was 23 years old. So, so he gets like a regular job. He starts working for Eaton's department stores. He was like a buyer or a buyer's assistant or something like that. And he worked in downtown Toronto. Now, it so happened, and this is what makes me think that he was probably responsible for the shit back in the 70s too, because he started working at Eaton's department store in 1973, right? And where what they now call it's I know it's a dumb name, but they do call it the Gay Village. That's what's called in Toronto, like the part of the town where like all the bars and stuff are. And it wasn't called that then because it wasn't like a codified area, but that was just kind of like where a lot of the gay people would hang out, like kind of on the down low. So he only worked like a block or two from there, right around the time that all of those murders and disappearances were happening in the 70s. So that makes me a little suspicious. In the mid-1970s, he'd been working at this department store for a little while. His dad gets a brain tumor and goes to a nursing home. Now, apparently his mom started going out with another guy because I guess the dad was dying or whatever, and she's like, "Hey, got to move on to the next thing."
He lost his mind,
yeah, or something like that. Now, at this point, it seems like Bruce kind of reconciled with his dad and then got pissed off at his mom. So there was like a whole weird family dynamic thing going on there. Now, apparently, even though his dad had a brain tumor, his dad lived longer than the mom. Like the mom died in 1978, I think, and then the dad died like a couple years later, like 1981. Now the mom had cancer, so I don't know, I don't know how that happened, but yeah,
Didn't go as she planned.
I guess not. So 1979.
They were probably breaking up anyway.
Yeah, well, like I said, they had like their religious views were a lot different. So, and he said they used to fight a lot about that. So Bruce and his wife, because like I said, he was married. They bought a house in a suburb called Oshawa. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I saw it on a documentary and I can't remember. Now, by 1981, they'd had 2 kids. They had a daughter named Melanie and a son named Todd. And so Bruce, apparently, he's got a wife and a family now. He's gay, but he's, back then you kind of kept it on the down low, right? So he's like trying to keep it under wraps. He starts working for the church, apparently to try and pray the gay away. I don't know what he was trying to do, but I guess he was like trying to forget about it. So he gets very involved in the church and shit like that. And another thing that makes me think that maybe he was doing some shit in the 70s too was that in 1978, when he was working for Eaton's department store, after that he started working as a traveling salesman for like this socks company, for a sock company. So he like got to travel all around by himself, like trying to sell the socks like at different department stores, you know what I mean? So he was on the road a lot with no supervision. So that's something that a lot of serial killers have, that type of job where they're just kind of like driving around and like targeting people. So I kind of feel like the shit that happened in the 70s was probably him, because he was, driving all over the place. Now, by the time by the time that the early 1990s rolled around, it appeared that he was like tired of being in the closet, so he actually did come out to his wife. They did like stay living in the same house, but he started to, carry on relationships with men and stuff like that. Now, even though they stayed married, apparently they started getting into like all these financial problems because their son, Todd, who was a teenager by this time, this is like early 90s, mid 90s, their son, Todd, was like constantly making obscene phone calls and he was always getting caught for it. So he was always like in legal trouble. So I guess they always had to pay for like legal costs and shit like that. And it was apparently like a big financial drain on them because I don't know what the wife did, but he was working in, the garment business or whatever. And I guess he hadn't been doing all that well. So they actually ended up having to file for bankruptcy in 1999, even though he had actually moved out. Like they were still married, I think, but they had separated. And Bruce ended up moving to Toronto because where they lived, it was like kind of like a small town and there was no gay bars and stuff. So I guess he figured since he was out, he was going to start hanging out in the burgeoning gay village, which there's these 2 streets called Church Street and Wellesley, I guess. And that's kind of where all the gay bars are and like all that other kind of stuff. So he moved into an apartment around there and started hanging out in the bars and kind of becoming a regular and all this other kind of shit. Now, apparently he got into like a 4-year relationship with another man for a little while, but then they broke up, right around the time that his divorce from his wife is being finalized. He apparently had some mental problems at this time, like depression and stuff like that. He went on Prozac. And then later he started working as a landscaper and eventually would start his own landscaping business. Now, the first sign of trouble that anyone knew of happened on Halloween of 2001. Now, apparently Bruce had met a sex worker on a chat line. And so the guy says, "Oh, well, why don't you come over and see my Halloween costume," or whatever, because it was Halloween, like I said. So he goes over to the guy's apartment, and for whatever reason, I don't know if they had an argument or what the problem was, but he started hitting the guy in the back of the head, like with an iron pipe.
Damn.
That he just happened to have with him. So I guess he was maybe planning this shit.
He's planning on killing that dude.
I kind of feel like it, yeah. So apparently he knocked the guy out. He didn't kill him, though. And apparently then, like, Bruce, like, took off. I don't know if he, like, freaked out or whatever. So the guy woke up and obviously called 911 as you would, and he gets taken to the hospital. He had to get a whole bunch of like stitches on the back of his head, and his fingers were all fucked up, and he had to like do physiotherapy and shit like that.
He must have tried to rape the guy. You know what I mean? But it didn't quite go down the way he thought it was going to go down. You know, and he ended up having to hit the guy with that pipe.
Yeah.
And that spoiled his mood or something.
Maybe that's what it was.
He didn't expect it to happen that way. So
although, like I said,
I'm out of here.
It does seem weird that he would have had an iron pipe with him, though.
We assume that. Did it say that it had the...
I mean, that's what I read on the source, that said he carried it around with him. So...
Well, maybe, maybe weird thing to carry around. Maybe he did plan on killing the guy with the iron pipe, but it didn't happen in the order.
In the way that he thought it would.
In the way that he thought it was going to. And
maybe.
It spoiled it. And maybe the dude yelled. Maybe the dude made a bunch of noise, yelled out, and he thought the neighbors had heard. So he
started.
He split. Him, Might have been something like that.
Now the weird thing about it though was that even though he took off, like the guy went to the hospital and everything like that, like Bruce for this he turned himself in. Although he claimed when they asked him why he'd done it, he said, "Oh, I don't really remember." You know what I mean? I don't really remember that, or I don't remember why I did it, but He's lying. He did turn himself in.
So he got some kind of panic attack. He thought he was caught.
Yeah.
So he went and preemptively turned himself in, try to
mitigate
it, make himself look innocent.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought that guy could ID him and knew where he lived. That kind of shit. It was something like that.
Yeah, maybe it was. But yeah, so he did plead guilty to the charges, which were, assault with a weapon, assault causing bodily harm, whatever. Now, he actually only got, like a 2-year sentence.
Yeah.
So there was a thing where I guess they thought at the time that he probably would not reoffend. But there was some controversy about that because I guess the Crown prosecutor was like, this is a conditional thing, and it's like after they let him out, he probably won't do it again. Blah blah blah. They tried to kind of explain it away too by saying, oh, maybe the reason that he did it was because they were both on poppers, and also, I guess Bruce McArthur at the time was on anti-seizure medication, and they're like, maybe there was some kind of the medicines reacted with one another. And maybe that's what explained it. So
I think they're just trying to rationalize.
Yeah, so it's by the time they kind of got through that, they didn't think that he was going to reoffend.
Yeah.
So that's why they only gave him 2 years. So shows what they know. So he actually didn't go to prison. He actually just went under house arrest for a year. And then he had a curfew for 6 months, and then he had 3 years of probation after that. Now, he was also not allowed to go down to the gay village. He was not allowed in that area of the city. He had to, and he had there was a restraining order against him for the victim. He couldn't go within 30 feet or whatever.
Restriction.
He was. He wasn't allowed to go down there.
Can't be gay.
And he was not allowed to solicit male prostitutes.
Yeah. That's illegal anyway.
No, it had been. This was in the 90s.
Okay, yeah.
It had been decriminalized in 69, I believe it was. 69 or early 70s.
Yeah.
No, I meant
No, prostitution I think is illegal in Canada.
Yeah. Well, it is most places here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so he wasn't allowed to own any firearms, all that other kind of stuff. He wasn't allowed to purchase drugs, or particularly poppers and whatnot. So he also had to submit his DNA to a database. Now, unfortunately, this apparently didn't stop him, because he went on to do even fucking worse kind of shit. So, the weird thing about it was that in 2014, he actually got a suspension of the conviction, and they expunged it from his record. So that if you did a criminal check on him after 2014, that assault charge would not come up.
Yeah.
I'm not really entirely sure why they did that. I don't know. I'm just saying that that's what they did.
He's probably a first offender.
Well, he was.
Yeah, well then...
And they thought they were mitigating circumstances because of the medication and because of all of them. Maybe he just flipped out and he had never done anything like that, blah-de-blah.
Most countries allow a first offender that if the charge happens and then he goes a certain amount of time without any
arrests
or convictions after that, it's kind of hidden.
Yeah.
That
Which
way you got
I
to
can
start,
get that.
so
I
you can
get,
start-
like,
in case it was an accident.
Right.
That kind of shit.
Well, in case it was a one-off thing, because some
Right.
people do like one horrible thing and then they don't do it again. But it's like,
Most guys with criminal offenses are multiple offenders. It goes way back. Like 98% of them are fucking multiple offenders by the time they're 18.
yeah,
And it's a lifelong trend.
yeah.
So, they're just trying to give an out for them, accidental shit and the one-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they're
Yeah,
doing.
because, I mean, shit happens sometimes,
yeah.
I guess. So, yeah. So, apparently in 2002, while he was still going through all the shit with the assault charge, Bruce McArthur registered on a bunch of, like, gay dating sites. Including, and I love the fucking names of these, but there's a fetish one, like BDSM, that's called Recon, which I really like.
Yeah.
He also registered on a bunch of other ones. My favorite name of which is Man Jam. Thought you'd like that.
Damn.
There was also one called Scruff. There's one called Silver Daddies.
Damn.
Grinder, everyone's heard of that one.
Yeah.
Bear Forest, I like that. Daddy Hunt, I like that one as well. Because he was into bears, apparently, or guys with beards and stuff. So he also had like a Facebook profile, and I guess all the pictures of it, he's like, look at all the parties I'm at, look at all the fucking nightlife. He's always at clubs and shit like that. So there was always like pictures of him. Now, apparently he had a thing for, like I said, he had a thing for bears. Like he had a thing for guys with beards and shit. He also had a thing for, South Asian men or Middle Eastern men. A lot younger. He liked them a lot younger than him because, I mean, at this point, let's see, he's probably in his 50s, I think, at this time. So, yeah, he liked real young guys.
They got bears, they got otters, they got all kinds of shit.
Bears and otters.
Otter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Gays are gonna make up names for shit to describe stuff. You can say otter, you know what they're talking about. You're like, oh, okay, yeah.
well, at least they make sense. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
when somebody says someone's a bear, you know exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so he had, by this time, he had, like, moved into, like, near the gay neighborhood and everything, and, and he was hanging out in all the bars. Now, he kind of got a reputation around for being into, like, fetish stuff, BDSM, being into, like, rough stuff, whatever. And he kind of got in a little bit of trouble now and again, like, he apparently got kind of abusive toward somebody, like he was in a coffee house or something like that, and somebody said something about him. He like freaked out and he like pushed all the glasses off and like was getting all mad about it and everything. And he got kicked out.
He's a titty baby.
Yeah, so he had some little rage issues and shit like that. However, other people kind of remembered him as like a really nice, friendly dude. Like he was totally, they didn't think anything of it. Like
situation.
he seemed very generous and very kindly. I think he even like played Santa Claus like at the mall and shit like that, like during Christmas and whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, he had opened a landscaping business. The name of his business was Artistic Designs, which that's not very original, but whatever. Yeah, and a guy that had worked for him for a little while, like I guess he was kind of like a contractor. And he said, yeah, he's like, this guy, it's like, yeah, he has this landscaping company, but it was just like this tiny, like, old van, and all his tools were old and shit like that. Apparently, he did an okay job, I guess, but, but they said he always had, like, 2 guys with him. They said there was an older white man with him who, it looked like they were, like, a thing, like they were boyfriends. And also that there was another guy that was like a young guy who was like Middle Eastern maybe, that was always with them also. So they don't know like who that was, but yeah. Apparently Bruce had like a lot of clients that were old ladies because they just thought he was the coolest. Mm-hmm. So I guess he was like really charming toward old ladies, and they kept hiring him to do their landscaping because he was super charming, I guess, or he could be. And like I said, he also, during the Christmas season, he played Santa Claus. There's pictures of him in his little Santa Claus suit, like, sitting in the mall. And he even, like, made shit for charities and all this other kind of shit. So, apparently, like I said, he still had this teenage son that was making all these obscene phone calls. He actually ended up going to jail for 14 months or whatever. And when he got out, one of the conditions of the son getting out, because at this point, Bruce and his wife had like divorced, and it was kind of contentious there for a little while. So when Todd gets out of jail, he has to go live with Bruce, at his dad, and like work at the landscaping company for a little while. Mm-hmm. Now, apparently, a friend of Todd's came over to the house one night and went in Bruce's bathroom, like, to use the bathroom, and there was, like, pictures of naked men with boners, like, all over the walls of the bathroom.
We have to understand something. If you're gonna have pictures of naked men, they better have boners.
Yeah.
You would think, you know what I'm talking about?
All right. And they said, and the friend said that it's like he recognized some of the guys. So it's like, I guess, well, that had been in the house or like that were friends of Bruce's and stuff. And Bruce just thought it was funny, like when they said something about it. He's like, yep, that's my boner pictures all over the bathroom.
Coming right at you.
What a weird thing to like just paste all over your bathroom. It seems like not very classy.
That's not weird, because think about it. If a guy could have a bunch of pictures of women with their titties and shit, he'd do it.
True.
You know,
like all over your bathroom, though, it's like that other people are going to use.
He's not thinking that way. He's not thinking that way.
All right.
That's just trophies.
I guess
that's just trophies. Yeah. That's just
gay. He wants everybody.
Gay guys going to do that. I guess, you know. Yeah, put boners up there.
Yeah, I guess it's no different than having like, but like I said, it's not weird like having like pictures all over your wall. It's pictures on like a bathroom that other people are gonna, and you're just like, yeah, sure, use my bathroom. Don't mind the erections.
Well, he probably doesn't think that there's going to be any women going in there. He's probably thinking it's going to be other gay men. They want to
and they just be like, oh yeah,
boners, yeah. You know,
look at all the boners.
Yeah. So you know that's what he's thinking. You got to put yourself in his shoes.
I guess I would rather not do that because he's a serial killer.
We got gay subscribers. They can tell us all about the boner pictures that they have. I'm sure they got boner pictures. Sure they got boner pictures.
So at this point, while all of this stuff was going on, people had started to disappear.
I'm getting pictures of people's asses from Mexico.
That's true. You just mentioned that before.
Yeah, so you know, it's just
random women's
It's just
asses.
You know, it's a different preference. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, obviously, like I said, that's not weird. It's not weird having pictures. It's weird putting them all over a bathroom that other people are.
He's a guy. He's not thinking like a normal human being.
Yeah, clearly. You guys with I don't know.
I don't know.
You're not thinking like human beings.
Maybe they weren't framed. It just depends on what the situation was.
Well, I'm sure they weren't framed. It's not like classy or
nothing.
Yeah,
it wasn't classy, so he's.
It was like having it's like paste and centerfolds all over like the garage or whatever.
Putting it in the bathroom for some reason.
That's what I mean.
Sitting there taking a leak, looking at the boner pictures.
That's what I'm saying. It just seems a little odd to like put them in the fucking in a bathroom that other people. I guess. Whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, so right around the time that all this was going on, people had started to disappear from Toronto's gay village. Okay. So the police are starting to get a little alarmed and have started like a investigation, which they called Project Houston. So as I said, they first started the investigation because apparently there was this guy, his name was Skanda Navaratnam, and he disappeared in September of 2010. And they looked for him but couldn't find him. They suspected that he had been murdered, but they couldn't find his body. Now, there had also been a posting on the fucking internet. It's a wonderful place, isn't it? There's apparently a cannibal website. I don't know if it's still there or not. Called Zambian Meat.
Yeah, down in Zambia, you know what I mean? You might want to eat some of that bush meat, some of that, you know.
I suppose.
Yeah,
long pig.
Yeah, that long pig.
So apparently someone had posted on this website that they had killed and eaten a man in Toronto. Now, because the police connected these two, because this man had gone missing, and then because somebody had made this post about eating a man in Toronto, so they kind of said, okay, well, we need to start, so they started this whole investigation called Project Houston. Now, interestingly, because of the cannibalism angle and everything like that, they actually thought that Luka Magnotta, the guy we were just talking about, might have been involved in this shit. So they investigated him for this also. Yeah. So there's still, the two of these motherfuckers running around. So, so apparently the first guy that they were looking at was this dude named James Brunton. And he had been under surveillance and this kind of shit. Now, they couldn't get him on any murder However, during all the surveillance and everything like that, they did find enough evidence to convict him of manufacturing and distributing child pornography. So he wasn't like a great guy or anything like that. But they couldn't find any evidence that he had murdered anyone. But okay,
now
so
this cannibal site. Are we talking about like those vores?
See that I don't. It's just like I don't want to look.
Where they're just
where they're just fantasizing about it.
Yeah, they don't actually ever do it. Remember
That's
that
what I mean.
cop that was doing that?
I remember that shit.
That was something else.
Well, and apparently Bruce McArthur, like after they caught him, apparently he had done this kind of shit too, where they had that whole kind of, hey, it's like, hey, you have to sign this contract, and then that means that I can eat you.
I'm sorry, if you're fantasizing about eating somebody, in my mind, it's only a matter of time.
It does really.
You're tempted.
That's the thing. It's like it's really that. It's kind of like a hard thing because people watch like fucked up porn and never do that shit in real life. Yeah. So I feel like you can't.
But if there's a whole lifestyle, you're going out and you're buying ovens for it, and you're talking about it.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
That's what they do. You know what I mean? That's kind of like if you have a dude who's constantly talking about children. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like having sex with children and buying shit for children, and it's only a matter of time, if you ask me. Yeah. Before he tries something. Just saying.
Although it bothers me because it's like, how many people that are on websites like that, you don't know how many people are on those websites and all they do is like fantasize or trade stories or something like that because they only catch the people that do it in real life. What percentage
of them actually do it?
Of them actually do
I bet you it's about 5%.
That seems a
but you know what?
Assumption.
What's that?
That seems a pretty reasonable
I'm
assumption.
thinking probably about like 5%. Because I think there are a lot of people that fantasize about being a serial killer and never do it. Yeah. But I don't know if they go so far, you know what I mean? But
yeah, I mean, there's a fine line between like fantasize, like you're just writing stories, or you're thinking about it, or where it seems like you're actually like stocking up and preparing
like,
for it. Like, oh, I'm going to go buy a chainsaw. I'm going to go like buy all the stuff.
Even though
like,
what's weird,
get rid of a body.
Even though what's weird is that the real serial killers, don't do that. Real serial killers fucking kill people, and then they're kind of unprepared for it.
Most of the time, it does really seem
spur of the moment because it was just an opportunity, and then they just do it again. So it's almost kind of like it is a different profile when it comes to serial killing.
That's what I mean. That's why it's like hard to identify them because.
But a serial killer isn't always a fucking cannibal. And there's something about a fetishized cannibalism, which I think that might be. I think that's dangerous. If you ask me, it's definitely not mentally healthy, I don't think.
Yeah, that seems like. I mean, I'll go a pretty long way. Like,
that's not healthy
with what people's porn preferences are. Because I know, like, some people are into some weird shit, and I'm fine with that. But
there's something about this constantly wanting to eat a person.
Eat somebody.
It's not right. If you ask me, I think you need to go see some help.
I mean, there's a difference between a realistic fantasy of like eating like a cannibal would eat a person, or sometimes there's a fetish for people that. They have a fetish for like somebody who's like really small, like they're an ogre, and like they want to be eaten by like, which is more fantasy based. Which I don't think there's
like that time I ate Yosemite Sam in my dream.
Right, like
you guys don't know this. When I was a little kid, out in California, I used to play with the hose. And I would fucking dig, my dad would drive my dad crazy because I'd fucking dig channels in the lawn.
Dig his whole yard up.
Dig the whole yard up. And I'd have fucking lakes and streams and shit, an army man.
It's your irrigation.
Well, I had a dream I was out there playing like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I had a big river going. And I stood up. I'm a little kid, I'm like 6. I'm probably like 5, 6. I stand up and here comes down the big old river a fucking huge Spanish galleon. Like, I saw a wooden model of a ship. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's with the sails and shit. Probably about 3 or 4 feet long. And that's what I saw. It inspired me for the dream. And it comes down the damn river that I'd just made. And I'm looking at it, and standing on the deck is Yosemite Sam. And he's firing cannons at me. And guns.
Rootin'?
Yeah, rootin' tootin'. And just right out of the damn comic books.
You harmy.
And all of a sudden, for a second, I felt like Godzilla. Because you know how Godzilla's fighting the army tanks?
Yeah.
And I went, rah! And I reached down and I grabbed Yosemite Sam and I bit the top of his hat and burned myself on that cherry filling.
He was full of cherry filling.
Full of the cherry filling. And I looked down in there, it was red like blood, but it was cherry filling. Because, you burn yourself at McDonald's on those damn cherry
cherry pies.
Cherry pies.
Or a Pop-Tart.
Yeah. Sure. And now we went, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And then,
why am I eating Yosemite Sam?
Yeah.
And why is he covered with delicious cherry jam?
Yeah. It's funny.
The first time he told me that, I laughed my ass off. I'm like, that needs to be like a short animated film or something like that. It was just like, I
was fighting Yosemite Sam.
That would be funny as shit.
Like Godzilla.
He
was on his Spanish galleon coming at me.
That was almost as weird as the dream I had when I was really little about how I was like running through this room and it had like all these fucking fake animatronic alligators like coming out of the floor. It wasn't even water. They were just coming out of the floor and I was afraid they were going to eat me. So there was like this little bitty like patch of hair. It looked like a Band-Aid, but it had like hair on it. And I stood on top of it and somehow I fit on it even though it was like little tiny. And then it flew.
Yeah, okay.
And I was flying over all the alligators who were trying to get me.
I had a dream around that same time that I ate Yosemite Sam. I was standing out in the front yard, I was watching the airplanes coming and landing in LAX. This is when I was living in California as a little kid, And I was watching the planes, and one of the planes came right towards me, and it was coming closer. It was crashing right at me, and I reached up and caught it. It was about 5 feet long. Damn jet had a 5 foot long jet.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I looked into the side, and all the people, the passengers, were looking at me.
Going, wow, that giant just saved us. Thanks, man.
And see what inspired me on that one is that I had a model of a passenger jet.
Yeah.
It wasn't that big, but it was about that big. When you're a kid, you just think of some wild shit. You have crazy dreams.
Yeah, you do.
Flying dreams.
I've never had crazy dreams as crazy as the ones I have.
Man, I had a dream I was flying over Los Angeles in like a in a DR-1 Fokker triplane, and its wingspan was about 8 feet. It was a little miniature fucking Fokker triplane, like a Red Baron. I was flying over Los Angeles in that thing.
Were you Snoopy?
That's where I got it.
Yeah, I think. That's what I thought.
Well, no, I had it. See, here's the thing. I had two models. Remember Nerf? Nerf made some model airplanes that actually flew. You put them together. And one of them,
I remember those.
One of them was a Sopwith Camel. I had that one, and I also had the triplane.
I think my brother had that.
And I loved that damn triplane. And they came out and you put them together. And they all clipped together. They were cool. They didn't look totally realistic, but they were neat.
It's Nerf, man. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and I loved the fucking Fokker triplane. So that's what I flew when I was a little kid. That one and the P-40 Tomahawk.
Yeah.
When I was a little kid, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I said a P-40 Tomahawk.
He wanted to be an airplane.
I wanted to be an airplane.
He didn't want to fly an airplane. He wanted to be the airplane.
It had to be it had to be a P-40 Tomahawk in the fucking Flying Tigers configuration with the fucking shark teeth.
The shark teeth on
it. Yeah, the mercenary.
I used to be fascinated by that fucking because my dad had like a whole bunch of those like war books, like all the airplanes of war and shit like that, and I used to love that fucking.
Yeah, that was an American mercenary unit serving fucking Chiang Kai-shek.
Yeah.
And they came from the Army Air Corps, but yeah, that was just to me that was the ultimate in badassery. Was
that plane with the fucking teeth
and I wanted to be that plane.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be Indiana Jones.
Okay.
But yeah. All right. So in June of 2013, this task force, Project Houston, they also found two other missing persons cases that they thought might be linked to this whole situation. Now, these two guys were named Basir Faizi and Hamid Kayhan. Now, they were all both from South Asia, and both had disappeared from, the gay village between 2010 and 2012. Now, both of these men were married and had families, but were kind of leading double lives. Like, their families did not know they were gay, so they were, like, sneaking around, you know what I mean? Like, living a double life because they were afraid to tell their families, and had disappeared from that area. Now, Bruce McArthur ended up getting linked with these missing persons cases through his all the dating apps that he was signed up for. Apparently, he had been, according to witnesses, he had been in a brief romantic relationship with Skanda Navaratnam, who was the first guy that disappeared in 2010, and that he had also been friends with one of the other guys that disappeared. So when police interviewed Bruce McArthur, he's like, yeah, he knew those guys, but he tried to kind of play it off. He said he knew them from this bar called the Black Eagle, and he's like, I hung out with them. It's like one of them worked for him for a short time, blah, blah, blah. But he tried to like kind of downplay like the fucking, the association there. Now, at this point, they didn't have any bodies and they didn't have enough evidence to link him. At this point, they were interviewing him as though he was like a witness. You know what I mean? Like they weren't necessarily like thinking he was a suspect. They just think, well, he knew these guys, so maybe he has some information that he can impart. But like I said, they didn't really have any other evidence to link him to the men going missing. Now, another guy named Andrew Kinsman also disappeared in June of 2017, and this was the day after like the Gay Pride Festival that they have in Toronto. He was last seen kind of walking around his apartment, and I guess he went missing, and like his friends wondered where they hadn't seen him for a couple of days, so they went into his apartment and they found that his like prescription medication was still there. Like he had a cat who hadn't been fed or given any water in several days, and they're like, look, this is a guy who he had lived in the area for a very long time. He was considered like he was well known, like everybody knew him. He was a bartender. He like had volunteered like for the People with AIDS Foundation. So like everybody knew this guy, and they're like, there's no way that he would just like take off and leave his cat behind like without feeding her and stuff like that. So it's like something bad must have happened to him. And also they're like, they thought it was unusual that he had met with any violence because he was a big dude. They said he was like, really tall. He was like 6'4". He was like 220 pounds. He was like a big muscular guy.
Yeah, so he wasn't defenseless.
Right. So they thought, well, they just didn't know what could have happened to him because they said, we don't think anybody could have like overpowered him or anything like that, but he wouldn't have just like walked up and left.
It means that he was shot.
Maybe, or
bushwhacked him.
I think what Bruce's MO was that he would meet dudes on dating apps, and then he would say, "Hey, he's into BDSM," and then he would tie them up,
and make you helpless,
or he would drug them and shit. Yeah. Like I think he did that kind of stuff. So apparently, after Andrew Kinsman disappeared, there was like this big Facebook group that started like called the Missing Rainbow Community, because apparently there were a lot of like missing people, and I guess people thought that like the police weren't looking into it as stringently as they maybe could have. There was some like controversy, I think, because they posted like this one photo that had like these 12 people that were missing, but the problem was like some of those people actually were fine. One of the people had been found dead, but it was a suicide. So there was like a lot of misinformation going around and shit like that. Also, a lot of people in the neighborhood were starting to suspect that there was a serial killer, but they were thinking that the police weren't taking them seriously, because at this point, like I said, they hadn't really found any bodies. So in 2017, like summer 2017, the cops started a new task force called Project Prism, and this was looking into the disappearance of Andrew Kinsman, as well as another guy named Salim Essen. He had disappeared in April of 2017 from the same area, like under the same circumstances. So the Toronto police are just like, they really did seem to like pull out of the stops, like looking for all these guys. They had like the dogs out. They like had weekly, like, they're looking through all the ravines around the neighborhood and all this other kind of shit. Now, there were also a couple of other bodies that were found around this time. There was a woman named Tess Ritchie. She was found in an alley. She had been reported missing, and then 4 days later, her mom found her dead in an alley. And then the next day, there was a woman, a transgender woman. She had been homeless, and she was also found dead in a ravine in August. So this really like ramped up fears that, even though I don't think there was any evidence to link Bruce McArthur with these two victims, because these were not his victim profile, but this was something that kind of like got the community like all upset, because they're thinking, hey, there's like a serial killer running around and you guys aren't doing anything, and all these people are missing, and these people are
to do with it. This dude like men and manly looking type.
Yeah, like I said, I think these two victims were somebody else probably.
Somebody else did that.
But like I said, it just seemed like there was a lot of crime going on in this one area at one time, and like all this other kind of shit.
That's not his taste. He's not into that.
Yeah, and that's what eventually they did figure that out. So as it turned out, the disappearance of Andrew Kinsman actually proved to be kind of really important to the missing persons investigation, and also like the linking of Bruce McArthur to all these crimes, because on the day that Andrew went missing, apparently on his calendar, like, for whatever he was going to do that day, he had written the name Bruce. And the police also pulled surveillance footage from outside of his apartment building, and it showed him approaching what appeared to be a 2004 red Dodge Caravan. Now, even though they couldn't see the driver or the plate or anything like that, what they did was they cross-referenced every red Dodge Caravan from 2004 that was registered to somebody named Bruce. And as it happened, there were only a couple. And the only 2004 red Dodge Caravan that was registered to a Bruce was registered to Bruce McArthur. So police started putting him under surveillance. They pulled all his records and everything like that. They also went to the place where he had bought the car from and found out that he was the one that had bought the car. And they were able to confiscate the car. And when they searched Bruce McArthur's car, they found traces of blood in it that was identified as belonging to Andrew Kinsman. Now, at this stage, like I said, they hadn't found any of the bodies, so they start bringing cadaver dogs to several of Bruce's, properties, because he had more than one. And he also had, a place where one guy that he worked for, he was, renting storage space and all this other kind of stuff. So they started having dogs looking around. Now, they didn't find anything at first, but as the investigation went on, they did kind of find more things. Now, one thing that they did find was that when they searched his apartment, they found, they went in and they cloned the hard drive of his computer. They didn't take the computer, they just cloned the hard drive. And when they, looked through there, they found a partial download that was kind of he had deleted the files and they were able to, restore some of them. And they were post-mortem photos of at least two of the victims. So he had tried to get rid of them.
He was taking pictures of them and he erased them.
Yeah, but he's taking pictures of them after they were dead. So what they were doing, like I said, he was under surveillance. Now they said that we're going to put him under surveillance, until we have enough evidence. But they said that if we see him going into his apartment with somebody, then we are going to act right away, because that is probably bad news and something bad is going to happen to that person. So that is exactly what ended up happening. On January 18th, 2018, while the cops were outside waiting, Bruce McArthur goes into his apartment with this other guy, a young man. So they see him go in. So the cops bust in and they find the kid, who's not a kid, but he was a young guy. So he's restrained to the bed. He had not been hurt yet. He didn't tell them his name. He was a Middle Eastern man. He said that it was a same situation where he was married but was living a double life. He was gay, but he didn't want to tell his family. And he had actually come to Canada, immigrated to Canada several years earlier. And he told the police that he had met Bruce through Growler, the dating app, and that this was not the first time that they had, met and had sex. But, so I don't know if he was planning to kill him this time or not, but the cops busted in and got him anyway. So apparently, he did have a black bag over his head and tape on his mouth and stuff like that, but I don't know if that was just a weird sex thing they were doing. And because they had sex before and he hadn't killed him, but he might have been going to kill him this time, but I don't know. But he didn't, because the police busted in. So they get another search.
I would assume that if he could get it and he was having a good time, he probably wouldn't kill him.
Yeah.
I think he killed him just if he wasn't get what he wanted.
Maybe that's what it was.
If he wasn't really having a good time, he'd try to up it and kill him.
Yeah.
Maybe a fight would break out and he'd kill him. Something like that. But
it's hard to say, because it does really seem I guess he was really active on a whole bunch of different dating apps.
Well, it's probably just a straight serial killer. If they run across women that were willing, and active, they wouldn't kill them. They'd marry them.
Yeah.
It was the ones that were kind of resistant, and they liked the resisting too.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, yeah, because they get off on it.
They get off on that also. It was just another way.
Yeah.
But he might have been one of his, I guess you could say, one of his regulars.
Yeah, that might have been what the situation
even
was.
Dudes like McDuff, who were fucking vicious to women, burn them with cigarettes for hours and stuff like that. He had a girlfriend too. Yeah. When all that was going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A lot of these fuckers do.
They want a willing one and they want an unwilling one.
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting it both ways.
They like it, but they like both.
Bleh.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, at this point, after they have Bruce McArthur in custody, and like I said, they have enough to hold him because they found, like, the pictures of the victims and stuff like that, like, on his computer. So, they start, like, executing. He had, like, 5 properties that they were searching. They had all the cadaver dogs and shit like that. Now, apparently, in January, the cadaver dogs took what they called a strong interest in, I guess there were like these big like boxes that were used as like planters, and he had installed them like in a bunch of different places, I guess where he had been working as a landscaper. Now, it was kind of hard to get into them because this was January and a lot of them were like frozen to the ground and shit. So they had to kind of like wrap them and like put heaters on them and like, because they had to take the whole thing that was frozen and they had to like take it back to the corners so they could check and see if there was any bodies in there. Now, in one of these planters, they found, and actually it was 2 of the planters. They took 12, and in 2 of them, they found skeletal remains of at least 3 people. Like, they cracked these things open, and there was body parts in there.
Damn.
You know what I mean? That were frozen. Now, the remains were not identified at first, but this was enough to, like, charge McArthur with, 3 counts of murder at this point, because they presumed that he had killed 3 of the men that they were investigating from the Project Houston thing, who were Majid Kahan and Sarush Mabudi, who was another guy that had disappeared in 2015. And then there was another guy named Dean Lisowick, who was like a homeless man, and he had also disappeared, but he had never been reported missing because I guess he was a transient. So, like I said, they're going around like trying to dig up all these planters and shit like that. They found planters from his other house in Leaside, which I think that was where he lived full time. They found the remains of 3 more people, one of which was Andrew Kinsman, the guy that had been in the surveillance video. They identified him through fingerprints. They found like they got a bunch more planters, but I don't think there were any more in there. And they searched his apartment and other kind of stuff. They actually found, they also found the remains of Skanda Navratnam in another, I think that was in another planter or like on another one of his properties. So that was like another one. So at this point, he was charged with 8 murders. That was how many, they started charging him with him as soon as they found like every single body, and they found like all these people's bodies. And it was pretty much all the people that they had been investigating, like at the missing persons investigations, all those people, he killed them. And like he put them in these fucking planters and they were fucking frozen. So apparently and like I said, this is pretty recent, but he actually only pleaded guilty to the 8 murders in early this year, like in January of 2019. So as I said, because there were all these crimes that happened in this area starting in 1975, when Bruce McArthur was working in a department store, like only a couple blocks from there, like started working there in 1973, and because a lot of the victims were stabbed, strangled, tied up in a very similar fashion, so they're investigating like 600 cold cases, hoping that they can close them and that Bruce McArthur is responsible for them. He has not admitted to any of them, apparently, although he did plead guilty to the 8 bodies that they found. Yeah, so he's meeting these guys through dating websites, and apparently his dating profile said he's looking for submissives because he was into BDSM. So he would meet these guys for sex. Apparently, like I said, he didn't kill a lot of them because some people were still walking around the bars. They knew who he was and like he had a reputation and shit like that. But apparently every now and then he would get a wild hair across his ass and he would just decide, like when they were tied up or they were doing poppers or whatever, and he would just like decide that he was going to start stabbing them and kill them. And then he was hiding them in these fucking planters and kind of like putting them all over town. Like they found him like on a bunch of his properties and like a bunch of like other properties that he had worked on, like that he had installed them there.
Growing trees out of them motherfuckers.
I guess so. It's like, isn't that fucked up? And it's like,
weird.
Yeah, but they found so many fucking, it's like horrible.
Guess he thought they never checked those planters.
Well, they wouldn't have if they didn't have the dogs. I mean, the dogs like found them.
Cadaver dogs. Didn't know about that.
Yeah. So this motherfucker, like I said, he's fucking in prison now, and hopefully He never gets out.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, they said they actually gave him life imprisonment. They said he has parole eligibility in 25 years, but he'll be 91 and he has diabetes, so they don't think he's going to live that long. So you know what I mean. And like I said, it's
by his late 70s.
They are still investigating whether he is responsible for the murders that happened in the 70s as well. If he is, he is. 8 victims, that's like, he might be Canada's most prolific serial killer. He's for sure the oldest. Yeah. Because he was in his 60s when he was caught. Which, I don't think I said, that's unusual. But in the 70s, he would have been like 26, 27.
That wasn't his first spree.
I don't think so either.
Hell no.
And I really don't think, and I was watching a documentary about him, and one of the investigators on the case said, he's like, it wouldn't surprise me either way, but he's like, and again, Michael Arntfield, the guy that wrote that book about all those murders that happened in Toronto and shit like that, he's a criminologist, and he was pretty much like, he's like, you can't say it because they don't have any proof, but he's like, I kind of think that probably, because how weird would that be that there was like somebody running around back then that was like almost the exact same thing, and they were targeting. He was specifically targeting people. He usually targeted people who were immigrants, people who were not out to their families. So he knew, because there was a vulnerability there. Yeah. Like, they wouldn't tell anybody because they were afraid that they would be found out by their families that they were gay. So he was targeting them specifically.
They were sneaking around so nobody knew that they were with him. Mm-hmm. So that made him eligible to kill.
That too.
So they think like, I can kill this one, nobody knows he's
and no one will know. And that's what, like, I think that's why he was specifically targeting those types of people, particularly. I mean, I think he had a thing for South Asian men, Middle Eastern men and stuff. Like, he seemed to like have a sexual proclivity for that type of thing. But I also think that he was targeting immigrants and people that were on the down low for that specific reason, because that gave them, they were more vulnerable. I think that's why. Well,
you couldn't kill somebody who everybody knew you were with him.
Yeah, if everybody saw your dumb ass.
Yeah, you had to kill somebody who was sneaking around.
Yeah. And that seems like exactly what he did. And he killed like at least one homeless man. Yeah. And a couple of the ones he killed, the weird thing was, though, that Andrew Kinsman was really, like, one of the men that he killed was really well known. He had worked at a bar in that area for like forever, and like everybody knew him. He was like, he was a volunteer for like a whole bunch of like charities and stuff. It's like, so everybody knew who he was. So that seemed like risky. And indeed, it was that guy's disappearance that kind of like led them to Bruce McArthur, because he had written Bruce's name like in his calendar or whatever. Okay, so before we close the show up,
I think you got one more, don't you?
Yeah, let's talk about, and this, like I said, this is not a serial killer. This was just a one-off. But I've been wanting to do this one for a long time, because I remember this case because this is fucking horrifying. Because I've taken Greyhound buses before, and I just could not imagine like getting on a fucking Greyhound bus and this shit happening to you. So, oh my God. Okay. So this happened in July of 2008. Now, Tim McLean, who was 22 years old, he worked at a carnival, like a traveling carnival. And he was going from Alberta, like he was going back home, and he was taking a Greyhound bus, like on the Trans-Canadian Highway or whatever. He gets on the bus, and he's in the bus, and he has like headphones on, and he's fallen asleep like against the window. So then this guy, who's like a Chinese man, he was like a Chinese immigrant. He'd been in Canada for quite a long time with his family. He's usually called Vince Lee, not Vince Lee like from fucking Motley. Isn't that guy's name?
Was it Vince Lee? No. His name was Vince.
Vince from Motley Crue?
Yeah, no, his name is not Vince
What
Lee.
was his last name?
Oh,
Vince something. Now I can't think of it.
Yeah.
For some reason I was thinking Vince Lee.
Yeah, like, Tommy Lee.
Oh, Tommy
Vince
Lee and
Neil.
Vince Neil. There we go. Okay, so I was kind of close.
Yeah, you're crossbreeding two men. I don't know if that's possible. Maybe fucking, on the island of Dr. Moreau, you might be able to crossbreed one man.
I don't know if I'd want to crossbreed those two men.
Yeah.
Especially not nowadays.
Yeah, think of the fucking VD.
Yeah, right? It's like, they might just like consume the whole entire...
Dudes are just walking fucking viruses.
Yeah.
Those dudes got around.
They're more virus than man at this point.
Yeah.
Gross.
Actually, I heard from what I understand, those were pretty nice guys.
They probably
are. They were real nice guys. Yeah.
We're just teasing you guys.
Yeah, they were wild though.
They wrote whole books about how how many STDs they had.
I like Tommy Lee.
They're proud of that shit.
Tommy Lee seemed to be very cool.
He did seem to be
I don't know much about Vince.
I don't either.
He was throwing down with a lot of women and couch surfing, and I think he had a drug problem.
Yeah. He got real heavy later, didn't he? Because I thought I remember seeing him like on some reality show.
He even did kind of like a little porn movie.
Or was that Axl Rose?
With some fucking LA hottie. It was kind of fun. It was a long time ago. That's back in the 90s. I think he got a little... I think... I saw a live performance of them that's kind of recent. And yeah, Vince Neil is kind of... He's half-assing it. When he was singing, it was mostly like he would sing every fourth word out of the lyrics. You know what I'm talking about? Kickstart! Hard! Yeah!
Whatever. I don't remember.
Yeah. Shout!
Close enough.
Devil! Yeah! And I'm like, whoa, he's out of breath and shit, you know?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's not good. He's like, man, I had to walk up so many stairs to get on the stage. I just can't deal with it.
Motley Crue is a fucking phenomenon.
I remember when I was in junior high, like the big, because you know how when you're in junior high, your whole, well, I don't know about nowadays, but back in the old days when you were like 13, it's like, it was like little musical cliques, right?
Yeah.
So it was like Duran Duran people, which was me, versus the Motley Crue people.
Yeah, I'd have to give it to Duran Duran, of course, in terms of fucking musical quality.
Well, they're a lot better band.
They were a lot better.
They have a lot more staying power, I think.
Fucking Duran's the shit. That's like classical music now.
It is, yeah.
It's like old people music.
They're a good fucking band,
They're
man.
fucking awesome.
I still listen to like
good.
Rio and
Very good.
the first album and shit like that. That's
Motley Crue. How am I gonna?
How are you gonna phrase this?
They were an important band in the genre.
Yeah.
Okay. They were entertaining.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call them a good band in terms of innovation and music. Not really, like, because they were in a way kind of like a copy of Kiss, but with a gothic flavor to it.
Right.
Especially early on with what was their first album. Almost kind of had some gothic fashion going on for the time. Too Fast for Love. No, they just did what worked in L.A. And they fucking ruled L.A. for a long time. Yeah. People basically were fucking trying to be Motley Crue.
Yeah. They were fucking huge. I remember that. And it was years and years. They had like a really long run.
They did what an American what an American band was supposed to do, and that's get blow and chicks. And fucking be very popular. That's what they did.
Well, they were very successful.
And they were very successful. Yeah, very successful. Mm-hmm. I appreciate them for what they did.
Yeah.
For what they were. And the same could be said for Kiss. Kiss was fucking... They were just the masters of merchandising, and, off of every album, maybe there were like 2 or 3 good songs on it, but fuck it, we'll just put out more albums. Yeah. And, you know what I mean? And it was just...
we'll just see what sticks.
They didn't care, you know what I mean? It was just makeup and the show... But I've never saw it live, but I did see recordings. Kiss put on a fantastic show.
Well, yeah.
It was like seeing Siegfried and Roy or something.
Yeah, that was like their whole thing.
That's basically what it was.
You paid for a ticket. You were going to see a fucking spectacle, man.
And Jenny knows, she can attest to me. I've seen fucking a lot of live shows and a lot of really good bands, even see Pink Floyd live. And I'm going to give the crown to the best live performance I've ever seen was Billy Idol on the Whiplash Smile Tour.
And the Cult opened,
And the Cult opened for them. And then the Cult opened for them, and that was 1987. That was the best live show I ever saw. Billy Idol could knock it out of the fucking park in those days.
Yeah.
Steve Stevens and everything. The sound was fucking great. Crowd was great. Cute punk rock looking type girls everywhere. I got into a lot of trouble at that show. It was fucking great. It was great. It was a fucking great show in 1987.
Yeah.
That was one of the best that was the best live show I have ever seen.
I don't know if
Billy Idol.
I don't know if I could pick one. I've seen so many. Oh man.
Skinny Puppy was pretty good.
Skinny Puppy was pretty good. No, the Cramps.
Yeah.
I got to see the Cramps. I think it was only 2 years before Lux Interior died.
Yeah.
And he was like in his 50s at that point, but holy shit, he was climbing all over the stage. It was amazing.
Glenn Danzig, 1984. 1994. Fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't think I ever saw Danzig.
I saw him at Venus de Milo in Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah, right after I got out of the Army for the How the Gods Kill album tour. And like I said, I was right up the front line with some Japanese schoolgirls that were there fucking going to college because that's where all the universities were. And they were dressed like some of their 1950s Bobby Sockers. But I grabbed Danzig's foot and a jolt of satanic energy went down my fucking body. I grabbed his foot. And he didn't kick me. That bitch did not kick me. He understood what I was doing.
You were trying to jail.
We're the same size. He's not going to fuck with me.
He's going to hit you with a thing of cat litter.
No, he's doing good. Out. He was fucking... Danzig was really good. He's still pretty good, but in his prime, he was even better.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's better in their prime. That's why it's called their prime.
That's why it's called their prime.
Once they get old and fat and bald, it's like...
It was kind of like seeing a more macho version of fucking Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it was like.
He did have a little bit of that air going on. Probably not as much as Ian Astbury from the Cult, but...
Yeah.
Same kind of vibe.
Yeah. He was good.
Yeah.
He was good, too. Although... I must admit, when you saw the Cult and Billy Idol back to back, Billy Idol blew the Cult away.
Yeah.
Even though the Cult was pretty damn good.
I've never been a huge fan of the Cult, I have to say.
They're good.
I like their stuff, like when they were
Southern
old
Death
goth
Cult was
rock,
really
when they
good.
were still Southern Death Cult. But once they went a little too. It was just too metally. Too, I don't know what it was.
Well, they had to make that money, and that was Motley Crue talking.
That's
Motley Crue
that's
made
what I
them
mean.
go that way.
It's okay, but it's like I'm always kind of over
and then
it.
Metallica fucking hit it really hard, and that just fucking destroyed all that shit. It even fucking knocked Iron Maiden down a few.
Well, yeah, I mean,
notches.
once
They
you had
never
the
really...
1-2 punch of like Metallica and then like Nirvana and like all the grunge stuff that happened, like all that hair
the
metal,
other stuff started
it just made it look really lame in comparison. Which you can understand how that happened.
Yeah,
I remember that happening. It was almost like overnight.
It was like overnight. All of a sudden, that shit looked very dated.
Mm-hmm. It was just fun.
Although I can go back and listen to the fucking Iron Maiden Killers album with Paul Di'Anno fucking singing, and that is a 70s sounding fucking hot metal album. But I fucking love the Killers album. That was really good. And Peace of Mind with what's his name, the singer that replaced Paul. Oh shit! Come on, everybody's laughing at me. Bruce Dickinson. Everybody knows.
I was gonna say,
fucking, I'm drunk.
You're the one that goes off down
Bruce
these
was
things,
awesome
and then you get
too.
back.
Bruce was awesome too. I could fucking hang with Bruce.
Yeah.
All the way up to the Power Slave and the Somewhere in Time album, and they had a couple bad albums, but I heard there's some of their recent stuff, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah, they're. It's hard to go back and listen to that kind of stuff now that you're older. It doesn't have the same. Music is not as interesting as it was.
Well, some types of music have more resonance when you're
young,
younger, like your formative years.
It's more important. It's more important and more impressive in your formative years. Later on, you go, it's pretty good. But then you're not really compelled to listen to it. All.
All right. So where was I? Okay. So you don't know. You were paying attention. Yeah. So okay. So we're on a Greyhound bus in Canada. Poor Tim McLean. 22-year-old guy, just minding his own business, going home from a fucking fair that he'd been working at. He's sitting in the second to last row of the bus, like back by the bathrooms. So they stop at a rest stop in this stop in Manitoba. And this guy gets on, as I said, Vince Lee, that's what got us started on this whole thing.
Yeah.
In his 40s, had a shaved head, had sunglasses on. Now, at first, he sits in the front of the bus, but then the next time they stopped, he moved back and sat next to Tim McLean. Now, Tim McLean, as I said, was kind of dozing, and he had headphones on, so he just kind of, woke up and it was like, hey, man, whatever, and then, he kind of went back to sleep again. Now, then, all of a sudden, for no fucking reason at all, Vince Lee pulls a large knife out of somewhere and starts stabbing Tim McLean.
Damn.
In the chest and the neck.
Just totally unprovoked.
Unprovoked. The guy was sleeping. He had headphones on.
Can you imagine that? You're just minding your own business.
That's what I mean. That's what this freaks me out so bad.
You're listening to Steely Dan or some shit like that. You're fucking chilled out,
Or Metallica or whatever it was he was listening to. I don't know
this
what
dude
he was
starts
listening
stabbing
to.
you.
Yeah, and he just starts stabbing him.
Yeah.
So everybody starts screaming, obviously. The bus driver pulls over.
Yeah.
All the passengers starts freaking out and getting off. Then Vince Lee cuts the guy's head off.
Yeah.
In the fucking bus.
What?
And then he picks up the severed head and like puts it at the window so all the passengers that are outside can see it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, the driver and, like, a couple other people on the bus had, like, actually tried to, like, they had run toward them, like, tried to save Tim, but he was already dead at this point. So at this point, everybody gets off. They, like, lock the doors. Vince tries to drive the bus away at some point, but they did some kind of, they had, like, an immobilizer thing, so, like, it wouldn't go anywhere. Apparently, like, Vince is, like, slashing at him from behind the door with, like, the knife. Then he goes back to Tim's body and starts cutting other parts of it off. Damn. And, like, putting parts in his pocket and then, like, eating some of it.
Jesus.
This, like, this dude, just, like, normal dude, gets on the bus and, like, sits next to it and just starts doing this kind of shit. So, it's crazy because, so, the report that went out, like, when they called the cops and everything like that, all they said was it was a stabbing. Right? But when the police get there, there's like this crazy person in the bus, like holding a head up. All the passengers are out in the grass, like on the side of the road, like throwing up and screaming and crying and everything like that. This one guy has like tried to give everybody crowbars. We're all going to go on the bus and like beat the shit out of this dude. It's like all this fucking crazy shit is going on. So the guy is like, they don't really know they want the guy to get off the bus. It's like they're trying to like, the guy's like in there, like Vince is running back and forth and like fucking like eating parts of the body and shit like that. They take all the passengers, like they put them in another thing and like take them somewhere else. They ask Vince like, what your deal? And he's reportedly said to the cops, I have to stay on the bus forever. Okay. That's what he said. And I was like, yeah.
That's where he lives now. That's where he lives
I guess so. So he was on there for like several hours, and then he tried to get out of the bus like by like breaking out of the window.
He's insane.
And then they tasered him.
Yeah.
And handcuffed him and put him in the car.
Yeah.
Now they found some of the body parts of the guys in the bus, and they found Tim's ear, his nose, and tongue in Vince's pockets.
Damn.
They never did find his eyes or parts of his heart, and they presumed that Vince ate them.
Yeah, this motherfucker's crazy.
Yeah, and
he's crazy.
Okay, now the craziest thing about this is that this guy, like, when they found, it's so sad, man, because, like, all the people that were on the bus, like, all their fucking luggage and shit was on the bus, and obviously they didn't want to go back on the bus to get their shit. So, like, when the Greyhound representatives, like, came, they had to take them all to, like, a department store and buy them all new shit. Like, buy them all new clothes and everything, because they're, like, because of the trauma and all this other kind of crap. And I think it ended up, like, one of the investigators that was, like, the first on the scene, I think he killed himself later on.
Yeah.
Because of, like...
Fucked his head up, huh?
Yeah, because it fucked his head up, because he was just, like, it was the most horrible thing he'd ever seen. Which it would be. So when they investigate this guy, they find out this guy, he'd been born in China in 1968. He had a Bachelor of Science degree in computers, and he had actually worked as a software engineer in Beijing for a while, but he had lived in Canada since 2001 and had been a Canadian citizen since 2006.
He was a white guy or a Chinese guy?
Chinese guy.
Okay.
Yeah, now apparently he didn't have like any kind of record or anything. He had spent like a brief time in a psychiatric hospital, like a couple of years or something like that, but I guess they thought he was all right and they let him back out again.
Got tired of those white people.
I don't know, man. He had a wife. Her name was Anna. He had a job.
He had some kind of psychotic break, or
he did. It had to be something like that.
Or he took some kind of bizarre ass fucking drug. What year was this?
2006 or 2008. Right?
Could he have taken some of that Flocka?
Flocka. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
This sounds like some Flocka shit.
Yeah,
right here.
maybe he took. Because Flocka was fucking real cheap fucking drug that is like an emulator. It's supposed to be like an emulator for another drug. I don't know. I think it might be an emulator for acid or something. I don't know, LSD. And it just fucks you up. Bad quality stuff.
Whew, man.
There's a lot of fucking weird Chinese emulators.
Yeah.
Some of them emulate weed. Some of them emulate LSD. Some of them emulate heroin. And they're chemically not quite the same. And your body just can't fucking process them, and they cause you to go insane.
Yeah. Because the weird thing about it is that when they started investigating this guy's background, like I said, he was a totally normal dude. Like, he had a wife. He'd had several jobs. Like I said, he'd worked as a software engineer, but when he moved to Canada, like, he could speak English, but not very well.
I think Flocka might be an emulator for fucking amphetamines. Maybe he took some kind of a fucking, a fake amphetamine.
Yeah.
And it just fucked him up.
Yeah.
Because a Chinese guy might be aware of something like that.
Yeah, could be.
You know?
Yeah.
They come from China.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me talking. That's
Yeah.
just straight, It doesn't sound like normal psychology. It doesn't sound like somebody just goes crazy. It sounds like drugs.
Yeah, because
some kind
this
of
seems
bizarre
like I said, he didn't
drug.
have any history of this type of thing.
Same thing that dude here in Florida that ate
that other guy's face.
Yeah,
that's what this reminded me of.
Right.
Because like I said, they look into this dude's background. Like I said, he had been a software engineer, but when he moved to Canada, like he could speak some English, but apparently like not as well as like some jobs needed. So he'd been he worked at Walmart, he worked at fast food restaurants, he worked like as forklift operator. But he had jobs, he had a wife and shit like that, and he seemed totally normal. Like all his employers said, sometimes he had a little bit of trouble communicating and stuff because his English wasn't very good. But they said other than that, he didn't have any anger issues. He was totally fine. However, about a month before the murder, he got fired from Walmart because I guess he got like into an argument with some of the other employees. But I guess he had asked for like some time off because he was going to go like for a job interview or something like that. Now, when they started like asking witnesses and shit, they said that now he'd been acting a little weird before he even got on the bus. Because they said the night before, apparently he had gotten like all his luggage. He had like 3 pieces of luggage and he'd gotten off this one bus in this stop in Manitoba, which is like where he got on the bus, like where Tim McLean was. Now, he had slept on a bench at the bus station, like with his luggage. And apparently one witness saw him on this bench at 3 a.m. and that he was sitting on this bench, like bolt upright with his eyes like wide open. And he was just like staring like into space. And they thought that was really weird. So they thought it was something. So after it happened, like they reported it. They also said that the next morning, like before he got on the bus, that he stopped this 15-year-old boy and sold him a brand new laptop computer for $60. Just out of the blue.
This is drugs.
Yeah, so this is like something like that. And like all the other passengers on the bus that like witnessed it, they said the creepiest thing was that when he took the knife out and started stabbing the guy, they said he wasn't mad. He didn't look psychotic. He looked totally calm. They said he looked like a robot. Yeah. Like he was just like staring and just like stabbing. Like
he got his hands on one of those cheap Chinese drugs like fucking bath salts.
I guess.
Something like that.
Really weird. Yeah. So he goes on trial in 2009.
He'll have some kind of defense.
It's insanity defense.
Insanity?
Yeah. He said that God's voice told him that Tim McLean was evil and that he had to execute him. He said God had told him that. So a bunch of psychiatrists like examined him and they agreed that he should get an insanity defense.
That he's bad shit.
Yeah. So he was actually sent to a mental health center. Now, the crazy thing though is that so he was in the psychiatric center for a long time and they said he didn't have like no problems at all. He responded completely fine and normally to all psychiatric treatment. And slowly they started giving him more and more privileges. Like they'd let him walk around the yard, and then they'd let him walk unsupervised, and then they would let him. So as of now, he is out. They let him out.
Damn.
Like after a few years. Because they didn't think he was a threat anymore. So I don't know if they determined that he just had a psychotic break and it was unlikely to happen again.
No, if you're sick enough to where that shit could happen, you're always going to be dangerous.
It kind of... Now, he has changed his name, so I don't know what his name is now. But apparently, I think they're still like keeping track of him and shit, like where he's at. But he has apparently changed his name and has started a new life somewhere.
One of my mom's relatives, she's got like 9 sisters. And one of those sisters somehow had some kind of weird cousin who, I just heard about it through the family. He was kind of like that. He killed his son.
Yeah.
Sacrificed him to God. But he was a nut. He was in a mental institution.
Yeah.
They let him out on a day pass to come visit his family. And he's playing with his kid. This is somewhere up in Massachusetts. It's like one of my mom's cousins, I think is what it was. Cousin. Not really related to me. This is like...
Yeah.
But he went to go visit his parents, and his son was there to visit him. His son was like 5, They had a lake and a damn rowboat, He takes his son out on the rowboat. And he's young. We're talking about a guy who's like, 35. And he comes back in the house, and he's happy and shit. And then an hour went by. They go, "Where's your son?" He goes, "Oh, he's out in the boat." So what's he doing out in the boat? He goes, "Oh, well, I sacrificed him to God." And he was out there. The little boy was out in the boat, stabbed.
Fucking hell.
She can tell you about it. I forgot about it.
That's crazy. Yeah, you never told me that.
Stabbed him right in the heart with a fucking knife. And then that was it. They locked him up in the mental asylum for the rest of his life.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he hadn't done anything like that before. But he had
This is the kind of shit that scares me.
Yeah, he had some kind of schizophrenia.
Yeah.
It was like schizophrenia. He was hearing God.
Yeah. Well, apparently that's what happened to this guy, too.
Yeah, so that made me...
And it's like this guy, like I said...
When you said that, I was like, oh, yeah.
No, nothing. It's like he was completely normal. He had jobs, he had a wife, he had everything. And then just all of a sudden, he just decided he's going to get on a bus and sit next to this guy and just stab him and cut his head off and eat parts of him. Just...
Had some kind of weird schizophrenia.
Yeah, it was just like some total psychotic
God told him to do it.
Yeah, I guess so. And like I said, he was in the mental institution for a while, but they let him out in 2017, I believe they let him out. And he's changed his name. I don't know where he's living now, but like I said, I hope they're keeping track of him.
Probably under some kind of medication, but...
I would hope so. What if he forgets to take it one day?
I don't know. But what I'm telling you about that story, that was like mid-60s when that happened. That was like a long time ago. Have to ask her about that.
Yeah, I will, probably.
Find out what happened to that dude.
That's pretty scary.
She probably doesn't know any more than I do anymore, though. That was a long time when that shit went down, she was like a little girl.
Yeah.
You know, well, not really a little girl, teenager.
In a way, this is almost like kind of scarier than serial killers, because a serial killer, it's like usually they start early and like they have a thing where they do, but it's like, you know, it's scary to think that it's just like a totally normal person. They could just be totally normal until they're like 45 years old, and then all of a sudden they flip out and cut people's heads off. It's like cut somebody's head off just for no fucking reason.
Sacrifice their son to God.
Yeah, that's fucking, that's like creepy. Because, you know, the human brain is very complex, and it's like, who knows what kind of shit could like snap in there like all of a sudden one day.
Went to that Abraham and Isaac action.
Yeah, that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight now. After like, because I've been like researching this shit all day, but now that I'm like talking about it out loud, I'm like, oh God.
I might snap at any minute.
That's what I mean. Well, see, it could be.
I'll just snap the fuck up one of these days. I'll snap like that, and next thing, that's
what I mean. It could happen.
Never can tell.
And it's like, you know nothing against you or anything like that. It could happen to anybody.
What do you think about them? What do you think about them? Well, of course, you know, people snap.
Right.
I snapped. Snap them damn straps on that underwear I was wearing.
You did, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
I'm gonna snap his
bra.
Well,
you gotta understand sometimes.
That'd have been funny if he'd have.
A man sometimes looks better in a bra.
Sometimes he does.
Yeah,
not in your case.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I saw the pictures, Dennis.
Didn't really look that good in a bra.
Dennis, I saw the pictures of you in that bra. You look like shit.
I mean,
it was like all belly and hair, like fur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird
down
because
in that grave.
It's never a guy you'd want to see in a bra.
No, I don't want to see fucking that motherfucker in a bra.
It's always somebody. It's
hairy ass,
you know
big
what I mean?
old belly.
It's always kind of like, you know, like those nude beaches.
What was that?
What was what?
You hear that? Okay.
No. What was it?
It's a cat or something.
Oh.
Yeah.
But, you know, like those nude beaches where it's like fucking, there's ghosts.
We're talking about all this ghostly shit fucking, and it's scaring me back there.
Well, I don't know what it's. Are the cats inside?
Trying to come and kill me, man.
Are they outside?
There's one cat inside.
Oh, okay. So it's probably her then. She's always making noise. But no, I said it's like those nude beaches, man. It's like people get excited when they're young. It's like, I'm going to go to the nude beach. It's never anybody you want to see naked. I'm just telling you right now. It's always like really old, fat men. With like
real out of shape, leathery looking women blowing some fat boy.
It's like it's not like you're imagining. It's not like a porn movie. No. It's not like a bunch of hot like fucking tight asses or nothing.
It's not gonna happen that way.
It's always like old saggy people.
If you know anything about all the fetish community, it's always you don't want to. Ones that are showing it don't want to see it. You want to see it.
It's true. All right, so we've probably gone on way long enough about all these Canadian crimes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. It's rambling like we usually do. Yeah. I don't know what all that ghostly noise was in the background.
I'm gonna check it out.
But we got to stop the recording and see what that is, because there might be some haunted shit going on.
Might be a cat asking to come back in.
It probably is, actually, because one of the cats, so she runs into the door and like bangs on it. I think that's what it was.
I was like, whoa, I thought this fam SWAT team was coming to get me.
I could... Because you snapped.
I was snapped.
They already knew. Here they come.
Fucking snapped, man. They're coming to get me.
Just like a thing of celery.
I'm drunk, man. Shut the shit down.
All right. So that'll do it for episode 172. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe, share with all your friends on all your social media, yada, yada, because it really does help us a lot. Give us a like, subscribe.
That's
blah,
right.
blah.
Patreon, bitches.
Go to Patreon. Go to our blog.
It's to the point now where there's so many of you, if you give us $1, it works. It helps.
Yeah, every little bit helps.
Every little bit's helped now.
You get early access to the episodes. Like if you're $20 and up, you get like shirts, you get all kind of free shit, you get all kind of fun things. Yeah. So that'll do it for episode 172. We will see you next time. Bye.